I've destroyed all the other past links. Reset everything. It said that the greater the resistance, the greater the impact. The greater the resistance, the greater the impact. Recognize the resistance and you break through. As we get situated for our tonight, we get into Clone Wars. Now I will send out the real aspects of what we're doing. I hate when that happens. I hate when I don't hate it, but it just shows me the works of what's going on, how shit's going on, what we got to do. But I have this message and aspect. Turn that back down. Turn that down. Go like this. Pimp this off like this. Share it in chats. As everybody's filling in. Y'all know the link real, so everybody filling in right now. Hit it like this while it's filling in. I'm going to share this link to Facebook real quick. But we coming into the aspects of Clone Wars. If everything here is an illusion, what are you fighting? If everything here in this space, if we can say to ourselves that everything here is an illusion, then what the fuck are you fighting? I've always asked myself this question to myself. Like, then what are you fighting if everything is an illusion? If everything is an illusion, everything is in that space, then what are you fighting? And then I came to the terms of you fighting yourself. Most of you are fighting yourself. We fight ourselves every single day trying to fit this narrative. If we imitate through this narrative of this illusion, this illusionary process, without going through our shadow work, without healing, what we end up doing is we only create. We're not creating. We're only imitating. We're only imitating and emulating. That means you're regurgitating to keep the status quo within this space of your substance, where you're sustaining, where you at in your life. So if one doesn't know themselves, and we always want, we always go through these aspects of wants. I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I need this. But when the needs are actually wants, you'll get everything you want everything that you want, guaranteed. You can get everything that you want if you continue down the path that you're continuing down right now. You'll get everything you want. I guarantee it. I guarantee you will get everything that you want going down the path that you're going down right now, as long as you're stuck on one. But you will never get anything that you need. You will never get anything that you truly need. Why will you never get anything that you truly need? Because you have not defined what it is that you need within inside yourself. You haven't defined the aspects of the inner child, what the inner child needs. You have not defined what's within those shadows. So every time you go into a space, now when you go into the escapes with yourself, every time that you're going forward, the only thing that you're getting and receiving is based on what you want, based on the quality. You're going to get stuff based on, as I'm saying always, that aspects of the quantity. Everything else you're just going to keep creating. That's because you're not in sync. You haven't understood the symmetry. The intimacy is the symmetry. The intimacy with your power is being in symmetry. Everything that you get stuck on based on the human thought is based on what you want. That's the demiurge aspect, the material world. Now, I'm not saying that it's wrong to not desire luxury, desire the material, desire luxury, but you have to get outside of the material mindset. You have to get outside of the byproduct, because until you define what it is inside of you, you will always have something to tell you what luxury is. You'll always have something to tell you what happiness is. You'll always have something to tell you what a lot of money is. Whatever it may be, what a lot of money is, what money looks like, what luxury looks like, what happiness looks like. You get stuck in that mindset because you still looking for something. You're still needing, you're still longing for something. You haven't defined it within yourself. I find it hard for myself, being in the state that I'm in right now, for someone to tell me any aspects of this aspect of love. I love you. Okay. I love you as a friend, but whatever it may be. I find it hard when you're only loving something based on the human thought. So you're only based on the material aspect. So you're only based on what you can receive. Because in the reality of it, in this line that you're going through, you're gonna get everything that you want. Every relationship and everything that you come into, you're gonna get everything that you need at that point in time. You're gonna get everything that you want. The journey is in what you need. The journey is into learning what you need. That's the hero's journey. So this goes into the aspect when everybody want to call themselves gods, goddesses. When you want to call yourself a god, at most, until you've healed yourself, you're only a demigod. That means you're only at half. You're only at half of the aspect. You're only at half of the thought. You're only at half of the knowledge. Because you're only at half because you received the knowledge in the journey. But until you apply it, you can't become the full God. You can't become the full spectrum. The full spectrum of that aspect. You cannot champion your humanity and step out of the role of humanity so you stay in the demiurge state, because most people think in their mindset, in order for me to be spiritual, in order for me to be conscious, I have to suppress something. That's based on that's based on that complex of the ego telling you, in order for you to do something, you got to suppress something. The suppression monologue that we give ourselves. When in true aspect, the urge is always going to be there. The urge is always going to be there. While you down here, you got to survive. But your survival is not going to be based on attachment. We get stuck in that space when we think survival is based on the attachment. One that has not become whole cannot learn the intimacy of their power. If you haven't become whole, you always going to be in need for something. If you haven't become whole, you always going to be in this want for something. You're always going to want to need something. You're always going to be able to be distracted. We'll always be able to be distracted. I remember being in that space with myself, and no matter how far I got in anything that I was doing, whether I was managing, whether I was doing personal training, whatever I was doing, I always felt something was missing. I always felt something was missing. But in the reality, what I was in fear of was actually going into the void of nothing. I always felt like I had to have something. I always felt like I had to have something beside me. I always felt like I had something beside me to keep me anchored in a position. Because I was in that fear mindset. As long as you're in that fear mindset, that's what you're always going to do. You're always going to feel like you need an anchor or a purpose in the external aspect to keep you doing what you're doing instead of doing the work. Everything that you're attaching to yourself outside of you, that you are imitating, or you are this state of imitating in this space right here, or emulating or invoking your space into this space based on so you can keep doing what you're doing, or you have a reason to sustain your survival in that aspect, in that space. That's tethering. You're tethering to something. We feel the need to. I remember feeling the need. I was like, I need to get the house. I need to get the car. I need to get Therefore, that way I can get this, this, and this. I always felt like I needed to be tethered to something for the reason that I was moving forward is because I felt like I needed to be tethered to something in order for me to be whole, which is a true aspect. That's true. You do require something to be connected to become whole. But when you're stuck in the human thought, the lower aspects of yourself, the fear aspects of yourself, where your traumas flourish, the things that you're not dealing with, the shadow that you're not integrating with, you'll always try to look for something to fill that void. Go into the void. Go into the void. Go into the dark. Really start looking at these aspects. The things that are triggering you, I'm always saying this, the things that are triggering you, those are the things that's going to lead you down your path. But when we get stuck on the result based on imitation, we take away the ability to own anything. This is tonight we get into the LLC mentality. We're going to get into this LLC mentality. I'm going to show you this, where I'm going to give you the aspects of the synonymous aspect of you actually owning something and how to use it to its full potential. Because even when people say, okay, cool, it's a year getting your own business and running your own company and running your own shit, until the mentality changes, it's always going to be based on the same emotional channels. The same thought process you're going to keep going through to try to make that shit work for a reason for it to go down, because you don't have ownership or authority over yourself. So this goes into the aspect of that LLC mentality. You're breaking away from the 9-to-5 mentality. The 9-to-5 mentality, it has nothing to do with you working a 9-to-5, because I know plenty of individuals that work a 9-to-5 job, but they apply that LLC mentality to their investments. They have their company, the LLC that they own is an investment company. So that 9-to-5 job that they work, the monies that they get from that, after they put money into savings, they put money into that company. And that company's already an asset, but now they're using that asset in order to acquire more money, to acquire more funds, to acquire more energy, because they can expand within that space. That's your legacy. That's the name. I remember watching the C. Freeman L lecture, and he said the name has power. So it made me really think about it like this. What if somebody's sitting in their position where they at, doing what they doing, and you own that family business? You grab a family business. You got your family business. You want your kids to follow you. You want your kids to follow in your footsteps for your business. Okay. They don't want to follow the footsteps in the business. Someone grabs the business goes under. The legacy's dead. The name is dead, because you ain't put no power in the name. For most of the times, we don't put power in our name. We don't understand the power of the name. For the most part, someone will go grab a numerology book and be like, oh, my name means this, so I'm supposed to be doing this, this, and this. All you're doing is regurgitating, because you're still living in that realm of fear. All you're going to do is be cloning shit. Everything down here you're doing is based on a behavioral aspect. Everything that you're fighting against in the illusion only has power based on the behavioral aspect. If it can make you mad, it has power over you. If it makes you upset, it has power over you. If it can make you feel any type of way, or if you can project any, and this is that main key, if you can project your anger, your insecurity, your doubts, your worries, and all of these aspects into that space, or if it can trigger you and make you upset, make you mad, or whatever it is, it has power over you. That's what owns you. That's what's in business with your power. That has the business over it. That has control over you. It feeds on you. It taxes you. And you can't write none of that shit off. You can't write none of that shit off. Because you can't expand past a certain point without looking like, man, if I write that off, then I lose it. Because you worried about losing some shit. That's the top thing. You worried about losing some shit. The fuck you worried about losing? What are you worried about? What are you losing? Because you ain't learned how to manipulate everything and transmute energy through it. I love, even before I came into the space of thinking about doing an LLC, just in the study, the scholarship, the study that I study, the things that I just read, just to read. And now I'm getting into the aspects of the downloads, going into the deeper aspect and learning how to apply it. That's the key. Once you understand your shadow, once you have integrated with your shadow, that means you are fully, that means it's not triggering you. You are aware of it. You have worked through it. You've done that deep internal work. You know what the inner child needs. You know what to give your inner child. You're at center. You're at balance. All that shit that's on your heart is off of your heart. You have now become the parent. You have become the sister, the brother, the uncle. You become all of these aspects. That's when you can start owning shit. That's a problem for a lot of motherfuckers because they don't want to own. You don't really want to own anything. You don't really want to own anything because it takes responsibility. It takes discipline to own shit. It takes discipline to own your emotions. It takes discipline to apologize. It takes discipline to honor your truth. It takes discipline to understand. Once you understand the aspects of discipline, and we won't be getting into that tonight. Once you get into the aspects of discipline, you understand that truth is limitless. Truth has no limitation. Therefore, how does a lie exist? Therefore, no lies exist. As long as you think that something can lie or something's bad or in that space, therefore a lie can exist. A lie is the truth based on it went past a certain boundary. You get that? These are the layers of them programs of changing your mentality. That there is no wrong, that there is no right. There's simply the truth. The truth has no limitation. I am the essence of all. Therefore, I am truth. Therefore, I am the essence of all. Therefore, I have no limitations. Therefore, I'm dead. I'm out there. There's no limitation to what I can do. There's no limitations to my ability. But you got to take that shit out your head. You got to reprogram your mind on that deeper level, not just surface level shit. We do surface level shit. We do aesthetic shit. We do things based on the human thought. So we automatically, now we say that we're gods, but you ain't nothing more than a demigod. You ain't a god. You ain't a titan yet. You ain't up in that level yet. You ain't reached that level yet. You still got barriers. You still got parameters. You still got limitations on you. You still got a limiter programmed in. And I'm gonna give you examples tonight of how I can tell motherfuckers got limiters in place. One of the most simple limiters, if you have children, if you cannot tell your children the shit that you're studying or break it down to them, you still got limitations. You have not applied it yet. Therefore, you cannot speak it. Therefore, you are not the example. Therefore, you cannot teach somebody this shit. You can't give the motherfuckers the information. Because there's keys to it. The shit that gets penalized as you being human, that shit don't exist in the aspects of you being in your God self. The penalties of humanity, the human thoughts of humanity, the filters of humanity, the looks, I'm afraid to be looked at a certain way based on humanity. That shit don't exist in the God level of yourself. The God realm is business. The God realm is business. It deals with laws. It deals with laws. It deals with writing off shit. I remember a long time ago, I remember probably 8-9 years ago when I said out loud, when I said to myself, yo, I treat everything that I go in, I treat every relationship, friendship I'm gonna start treating every friendship, relationship, everything that I do from this moment forward as a business transaction, as a business investment. I'm going to treat it like a business. I never can fully adapt to it because I didn't fully understand what I was saying. But just for me to implement, it wasn't based on at that, I think it was like 2011, between 2008 and 2011, I kept saying this to myself. Just because I was simply saying it at that point in time, and that's the key, just because I was saying it at that point in time, it set the parameter, it set something it was set and seated in my mind. So now that when I move forward, I'm in a space like now, I understand why I said it. Some of the shit that you're trying to do is not going to work in the space that you in. None of the shit that you're trying to champion and you're trying to usher in is going to work. It is not going to serve the purpose that it needs to serve in the space that you in. It's similar to a villain wanting to take over the world and then the hero wanting to save the world. The villain gets pushed to the parameters of destroying everything on the planet, and the human wants to save everything on the planet. There's still more time. There's still more time. They both stuck in the complex because the villain's always going to say, there's still more time. There's still more time. But the anti-hero or the anti-villain, whichever one you want to call it, in that space, understands that while I'm here, let me see what I can get. What can I use to take myself to the next level? So there's no more lies. You've seen in real time that there's no more lies. Everything's been exposed and put right there in your face. So the only thing that can be hidden is the shit that you still don't want to look at. We in the age, it's that golden age, the age of information. It's damn near impossible to hide from the information. So what is making you hide from shit? Most motherfuckers are still trying to sustain the levels, trying to sustain the structure of where they're at in their self right now. You don't want to change because if you change, that means you got to invest. That means you got to be challenged. That means you got to put in real work. That means you actually got to do some shit. It ain't no more just laying there. It is no more just standing there, laying there, waiting for some shit to happen. It's been, and this is the crazy part, it's been that way. It isn't like it just came up, you got to do some work. It's been that way. It's been that way for the whole entire time. This takes, once you embrace the aspects of the truth to yourself, in the aspects of understanding that your shadow, you've been battling your shadow this entire time. Once you understand that you've been battling your shadow the entire fucking time, everything that you tried to say based on the antagonist and the protagonist, shit don't make no fucking sense. It don't make no sense no more. There's things that I can't acknowledge anymore inside. I just can't acknowledge it. You mean to tell me for like this simple shit that don't make sense? You mean to tell me that I'm the creator? I'm the original of all? I created everything? But I have an enemy? I'm the creator of all, but I am an enemy. I created an enemy? How did I create this? So I have an enemy outside of me that's stronger than me? Even though I'm the original? That means it's a little closer to home. That means my enemy is a little closer than I want to actually look at. There's nothing outside of you that, except for the distraction that keeps you away from the distraction that motherfuckers that happily accept the reason why they can't do shit. And you'll put yourself in a position of why you're not doing shit. The sessions that I've had over the last, we'll say this, the last 6 months with people, breaking down people with their shadow work therapy. Even if they hit me, the information that the way that the healing process that's been invoked has changed them forever. That's changed them. They're no longer in the same mindset. They're no longer in the same place. They different as fuck. What am I doing? What am I doing? I don't know what that is. Oh, because it's, oh, okay. I'm doing some more shares real quick, pushing this out here to the other people. But you'll put yourself in a position not to build anything, because that's stuck on that demiurge. That's that demiurge aspect. You still stuck in human thought. You still wondering what happens if you do succeed. You still have that's confidence issues. You're like, oh my God, what if I do succeed? Okay, nigga, what if you do succeed? What if you succeed? Then what does that mean? What if I do succeed? What if I succeed in doing what I need to do? What does that mean for everybody else? Fuck everybody else. Fuck everybody else. Everything else is going to be holding you back and holding you down. You looking, because you're still stuck within those filters or those parameters within yourself. You're still stuck in these filters with yourself of the idea, the personalities or the filters in your split personalities of what everybody around you is accepted at a certain point in time. I used to be motherfuckers like, oh, he's the weird kid, he's the deep kid. He's very intelligent, but he don't like going around people. I had to let go of that identity. I had to let go of that personality because I because my ego grew confident in that, grew a sense of itself in that personality. I can still use I can still use that as the distraction for not dealing with my emotional channels and bringing myself into balance. When you're looking at yourself in this space right now, when we think about the no self, and now you create your environment. You create your environment. You create the environment. I want nothing. I need nothing. In the depth of me not wanting nothing, not needing nothing, it's simply more than just saying it. You have to build into this. I want for nothing and I need for nothing. Everything that I need is provided. I control I have the intimate interface with the power, my power and my energy, to how that energy is flowed through me, to me. I don't need anything. Carlos don't need anything. Carlos don't need shit. Carlos don't want shit. I'm employed. My avatar, your avatar, the body, your human body, it's employed by something. If you're not employing it, somebody else is employing it. Somebody else is going to employ someone else employs you. Papa Lucifer employs this body. The God-Occult Alchemist is the environment from where everything streams from to pay all the expenses for this body is paid. I have no attachments to anything. I have no attachment to anything. So now I have all the room in the world to create. I have no attachment to anything. I don't have to worry about if my mom was to ask me for money, or I'm no longer triggered by my mother if she asked me for money, a relative asked me for money, somebody asked me for some shit, someone tried to upset me. I'm no longer triggered by it because I understand that's their purpose in that space. So since I'm not stuck within those old channels, I'm free to create. I can transmute from everything. I can write everything off as what it is. I have respect for my mother for where she's at. I have respect for my people for wherever they at the space that they in. I can write it off. The energy that I receive, or the energy that when I'm led to a certain space and I got to go over there and learn some shit, once I learn the lesson, I can write it off. That's that key when you coming into this LLC mentality with yourself, which is synonymous with what you actually own in a business. What drives you? What are you using to drive you? What do you use? Everything down here is fucking food. You gonna get fed on anyway. Everything gets taxed down here anyway. you might as well be able to write that shit off. You might as well be able to write the shit off. That way you can get something back. You can get your energy, so you can get your energy back. The credited aspects of your energy back. But you stuck in the emotional aspect, and you don't understand your energy yet. Most motherfuckers don't understand. Most motherfuckers have not come into terms with their energy in the intimate interface of their power. You simply want to say, I am a god, I'm a goddess, I'm a king, I'm a queen, I'm this, this, and this. But you still trying to battle what? You still got a shadow to battle. You still got shadows you got to deal with. You don't understand the full inception of the art of war. Now you feel like you got to suppress some shit. Whether it's to suppress, whether you're gonna boycott Gucci or you gonna boycott whatever the fuck you about to boycott, so you're gonna suppress the luxury fashion that you can tap into. You're gonna lose that. You're gonna lose. So you want to boycott, you want to protest, you want to debate, you want to do all of this bullshit for what? Just to say because I'm this. That's why you ain't building no fucking legacy. Because at the end of the fucking day, here becomes the reality to it. Motherfuckers want to walk around here, be rebels with they soul rebels and shit. I remember that was from a conversation earlier. For you want to be a rebel, a revolutionary and all this shit, at the end of it, if you get knocked off right the fuck now, one, you coming right back here. Two, what the fuck type of legacy did you leave? Your legacy, just like the knowledge, is the legacy. The knowledge that you apply creates the legacy. So what are you building in your legacy? You don't own shit. You don't want to own shit. You don't want to take yourself to the next level to own some shit. Take the aspect of like this right here. I was looking at the other day, like I made that post about how to buy your car, buy your house, buy shit through your LLC. How to purchase your shit through your LLC. That way, as every year, you can write that shit off on your taxes. Buying your crib through your LLC, that means everything. If I buy my crib through my LLC and I work from the house, this is one of my next steps. And I buy my crib, I go get my crib through my LLC. Go grab my crib through my LLC. Cool. If my house whether it needs fixing up, or I need to renovate, or I need to turn something into an office, or I need to do some shit, every expense that I build into my crib is now a write-off. So I get all of that shit back as a credit at the end of the year when I go get paid my taxes, when I go drop taxes. So I get mostly all of my money back. I get mostly all of my cash back. Now I have that implemented in my legacy, that I've learned that in my legacy. Now I have a child, which we know this is an example. I have a kid. Let's say I have a little niño or a little niña. I have a little girl or a boy, whatever it may be. Instead of me sitting here saying, "Ooh, I need y'all to hold on to the family business," I can tell them why. It's more than because it's family is everything. If you don't hold on to your name, I ain't giving them no bullshit that I regurgitated back from the fucking 60s. I'll be like, the house, all of the cars, the house, all of the cars, the vacation spots, the boats, whatever I've acquired is in the company. It's under that LLC. You can write that shit off every fucking year so I can teach the kids financial literacy. You can write that shit off every year. The land taxes, everything, renovations, expenses, you can write it off through the LLC. Now the family has a name to sustain under. Now it doesn't matter because now when it comes down to them, now they have this mentality has been imprinted in their mind. Now I've emulated a new mentality in their mind. I've embedded a new mentality into their mind. So guess what they can do moving forward? Now, if they decide whether to work 9 to 5 or open up their own fucking company or their business or do whatever they do, They have something to implement into their shit. They have something to integrate inside of their thing. The most of the aspect what most motherfuckers do when you getting scared of shit, all you're doing, you're gonna do it regardless. You're gonna create the conduits in this space regardless. It's going to matriculate down in this shit regardless. It's gonna do it regardless. It's gonna create the byproducts. It's gonna create everything down below you. As above is connection. As above is the aspects of the structure of connection, and as below is the structure of attachment. So if they're not connected to something as above, they're going to be deaf. If they do not understand how to be connected in connections and the power of the connection to themselves, of their bloodline and everything into that space as above, then they'll be attached to something below. That's how that shit goes back and forth. So we get stuck in creating that fear-based narrative in our lives. Yo, I've been scared of this happening because of this, and this. Because you want to sit there and recite and make your kids and make people watch documentaries about 10 years a slave, 400 years a slave, however many years a fucking slave. The only reason that you still react to it because somewhere inside of you, you're still a slave to yourself. You're still a slave to your shadow. You're still a slave to your shadow. It's subconsciously embedded into your mind to act a certain way. It's still there. That's why you only react to it and you don't know how to respond to it. Grace is based on recognition. Your ability to move within the disorder and recognize disorder. You ain't in harmony, so you ain't whole. So now you walking around mad at motherfuckers because they doing this, and this. I can't believe they've been doing this for years. I had a conversation. I've been thinking about this for a good minute with myself. I thought about it with myself. As you coming in, drop that out shade. Oh yeah, before we get too deep into this, because we're getting into a lot of shit tonight. This is my Death Day weekend. This is the Death Day weekend for Papa Lucifer. It's my Death Day weekend. On the 16th is the official Death Day. New moon energy in that space. But as we going forward in our mindsets, we're going to be forced to be challenged against the old paradigm of ourselves. In that aspect of yourself. The shit that you've seen happening over and over and over again that gets stuck. When you're stuck in this aspect of imitating, you're stuck within the old emotional channels of yourself, that emotional baggage, that emotional channel of yourself that happened to you in that trauma, that traumatic event, what happened to you, uncle, whatever happened to you at that point in time. I can guarantee until you go through the healing process, you're not as much mentally, but your memories are stuck there because your emotions are stuck there. The energy that's in motion, the channels that are locked in, that's why you can sit here. That's why I said earlier at the beginning of this, you can get everything that you want. You can achieve everything that you want. You get everything that you want. But when it comes time to get what you need, it'll never work. The needs will never be met. You'll always feel that need to fucking need something in your life because you ain't learned. You have not defined the needs within yourself. You have not defined what the inner child needs. You have not defined what the inner shadow means. You haven't done that inner internal work. So let's go into this aspect. Imagine your grandmother, your great grandfather, whomever, like they own land. They got some land. They went and struggled. They bootstraps and they own some. Now they own some land. They own some land. Land been in the house. Land been in the family for motherfucking years. Land been in that family for fucking years. Y'all done went out there and had picnics on the land, family reunions on the land. Y'all ain't done nothing with the land but sustain the emotional channels. Ain't nobody built shit on the land. the land worth this much. You ain't learned how to do nothing with the land. Ain't nobody learned how to do nothing with the land. Here come Uncle Kenny or Aunt Gloria or one of the trifling ass aunts are like, hey, let me get the land deed and let's build something on the land. They build something on the land. Or it's a house. Let's do it from the aspect of a house. They go cop a house. Yes, this is currently where we at. We get that crib. So you get the crib. Somebody sell the house. Everybody's emotionally distracted. Somebody sold grandma's house. Somebody sold grandma's house. They made a profit off of grandma's house and they blew the money. What did you learn? What did you learn? What did you learn? Not any. Let's get out of this human thought narrative. What did you learn? What did you learn? Besides, we're going out of the human. We're going out of the human thought of emotion. Not trust these niggas because that's why I can't do shit with family. All right, cool, whatever. So you're learning that what you really learned was your family's karmic debt. So you ain't building nothing with your fucking family. That's one thing that you learned. What else did you learn? If I did this with the house, because I'm gonna give you a thought process. I bought my mother a house. Something simple. My mother house. I got her a house for about 130 grand at the time. I bought my mother a house. Used the last of my little hustle day money. 130 grand. I've never told nobody the story, the deep story. 130 grand for the house. My mother went to my aunt, one of my aunts, conniving ass aunts. And my aunt gave her the idea to go get a second mortgage put out on the house. My mom lose the house. After all my emotions went through my body, this was like back in 2006. After all the emotions went through my body, I was like, you know what? I'm not really mad at the fact that she lost the house. I'm not mad at the fact that she followed because her mentality was there. I'm not mad at that. What I'm upset with is I could have went something better with that house. So it made me really think. So that was one of the things that came up in my mind was like, if I really owned the house, because you don't own shit down here, the only reason I'm mad at it is because I lost something that I was attached to. It showed me what it needed to show me. So now my mentality is, if I don't own it, if I want nothing, if I don't own anything as the vessel, let me create the name that owns something. This is how we got to start thinking with shit. This is also what this is a good time to drop that in there. The God-Occult Alchemist book club and secret society, the types of shit it's coming into LLC, learning the family trust, building a family trust based on you building that banking aspect, bringing the family aspect, learning how to leverage your LLC to go buy your crib so you can write shit off, learning how to go leverage your crib to go buy your car. So all your cars is company cars. Like Tommy, I can't let you drive that car. It's a company car. All your shit become business. Treating everything as a fucking business. But you thinking you think emotionally, you like, I can never do that to somebody. What the fuck? If you're not doing it for yourself, somebody else can do it to you. If you're not employing yourself, somebody can employ you. Yeah. If you don't employ yourself, somebody can employ you. Hell, I'm gonna give you an idea. Here's an idea. You go grab a house, You go get your first house, and then you leverage your house, and you keep circulating the money back through your business, and now you go buy your mom a crib. Now you can go buy your mom a house. I don't know if your relationship with your mother don't. You can go buy your mom a house. That house is a tax write-off. That house is a tax write-off. That house, you can write it off every year. That since you own it, you can write off the land permits. You can write off everything in the house. Your mother wants something in that house, you can write it off in the house. Guess what you also can do? Your mother is now employed by you. Your mother ain't got to work because your mother's now employed by you. These are the types of shit that we actually got to start fucking thinking about instead of looking at it from this space of we need an economic plan. Motherfucker, you are the economic plan. Once you understand your energy and your currency and balance, you become the economic plan. You are the vessel for everything that's going to come through into that space. But once the space that you in, you got to learn how to manipulate what's in that space. There is no more of this bullshit ass. We got to wait for the white man to fall out of power and shit. We got to wait for the white man to fall out of power and we can take the earth back. I don't want nothing down here. I need not want none. You see how that contradiction hits you? You say you want and need nothing, but you waiting for something to fall off. I don't want to need nothing down here. But I'm surely going to transmute all energy through this space while I'm down here doing my work, while I'm moving inside of my purpose. I'm going to definitely build my legacy. I'm going to build my fucking legacy. So when I leave, the legacy still stands. All of the information is there in that space. Everything that needs to be learned, everything about me is locked within that legacy. That's you. This is the depth of you restoring your blood, putting that shit in your bloodline, not just coming into it. For me, my bloodline is very, very crafted in the aspects of the occult, in the aspects of all of my crafts and what I do. I'm learning it more and more and more as that shit come online for me. So like I have an entirely different aspect. Like when I look, like the first time I looked at my human design chart, my head is wide the fuck open. Nice little triangle at the top of your human. If you don't know what your human design chart is, at the top of my human design chart, that shit got 361s in it, and them bitches is all open. 61 is the aspect of occult science, of occult or the hidden or the knowledge or the mysteries, the initiation process to initiate. Once I got past the point of the fear of being accepted, because these are the layers you going into your shadow work for when you're working on your shadow work. The first thing you got to do is accept or acknowledge that you benefited from said trauma. You benefited from whatever trauma you've been through, you benefited from it. Because if you didn't benefit from it, you wouldn't be where you at right now. And I've said that plenty of times before. But the trauma that you've been through, if you didn't go through that said trauma, you wouldn't be where you at right now. That's the benefiting process. It ain't good or bad. It's positive and negative. It served you because it got you to where you at right now. It is still going to serve a purpose because once you acknowledge it, now you accept that. Now you accept it. Now you're going to start looking at things differently. Because now I look at it differently. Like if I benefited from this said trauma of me being in the position that I was in, then what trauma did my mother, what trauma did my father go through? What trauma did my family go through in their cycles that they're benefiting from? So the key is for me is understanding that my family is based on karmic debt. A lot of y'all like to stay around your families because you still are acquiring the karmic debt. You ain't paying off your debts. You still feel the need for something. That wanting. You still at have. You embracing that you're a god and a goddess and a king and a queen and you greatness. But that's based on the have aspect. You got to apply the information that you're getting in that journey. That's how you become whole. That's becoming whole. Most people are stuck in this aspect with themselves. You still stuck in this demiurge aspect. You still want to make stuff in material. You still want to make your regardless. The material shit is always going to be present. The money's always going to come there, no matter if it's going to be cryptocurrency, whatever it is, it's always going to be there. The house that you're trying to look for is always going to show up when it needs to show up. The relationship that you need to fall into is always going to show up. So you got to let go. That's letting go of the materialistic aspect. Letting go of the materialistic aspect as you look at this means, i.e., looking for the result. Pay attention to your path. Pay attention to the work you need to do. Everything's going to come when it need to come in that space. It's already there. You just got to be confident in your works and your path. A lot of us get scared. This is the aspect that we got so used to building based off of lack. So without the lacking aspect, how can I build anything? Without the doubt aspect, how can I show somebody that I'm not in doubt? Because here comes that trippy part. We think that the victor is the protagonist when the victor is truly the antagonist. We think that the victor is the protagonist when the victor is truly the antagonist. The victim is the victim is actually the antagonist. The victim is the antagonist. The victor is the protagonist. No, yeah, that's it. The victim is the antagonist, and the victor is the protagonist. So while you in victimhood, you are the antagonist. You want to take this antagonist approach or the negative approach to everything. Approaching things through the lack mindset, the oppressed mindset, the narrative of the oppressed person. I'm hurting. They keep trying to kill us and all this shit. So you take on the antagonist approach. Meanwhile, the protagonist is benefiting from your negative. As long as you living in the negative, the protagonist is always going to exist. They always got a reason to exist within your space. So this makes you really start thinking about the shit motherfuckers got stuck. Oh, I'm pro-black, nigga. The first thing that I claim is I'm a fucking Titan. The first thing that I put my name in is I'm a Titan, I'm an occultist, I'm an alchemist. First and foremost. The race or the color is the last thing that I put myself into. Because that's based on behavior. When you keep trying to say you pro-black, that's a behavior. If you say that you're pro-white, you're a behavior. And what you see right now is like they're killing that off so it don't exist anymore. What you gonna see over the next couple of motherfucking months, over these in this year, you're gonna see them really catering to the black people. They're gonna be catering to black people. They're gonna be catering to them. Because because you in the last stages, you in your state, this is the end of a cycle. If you come online, there's no need for them. There's never been a need for them other than a shadow that you need, other than the clone or the conduit of the behaviors of yourself based in shadow form. The shit that you're not willing to do. It's been the same thing the entire fucking time. You created these aspects down here on this level based on shit that you didn't need to do. I remember saying that shit to myself back in like 2003. I was like, wait, if somebody didn't want to go through all of the work process, but wanted to see the process of what it takes to learn themselves, the aspect of the impression, a God created themselves. What would it look like? What would the furthest aspect look like? It would be the furthest aspect of a frame of light based on behavior. Then as it comes closer to the spectrum, that means you got the yellow, that means you got the brown man, the red man, the yellow man, and the white man. Aspect, archetypes of energy. The white would be the most refractive. And as you come closer to it, it becomes, they keep breaking off this when you look at the generation aspect. Each one of them, none of them motherfuckers have the spark. Only the creator can create it. You're the original. You are the creator. Therefore, you had to have created it. You have always had the spark. Your shit lays dormant. Isis thesis, book of in the Nag Hammadi scriptures. If you want to get that information into that shit to start that search, you created those aspects. You in your state where you at when you become conscious, you're the fucking demiurge. When we look at the state of consciousness and where it's at, motherfuckers want to debate and suppress shit and tell you to do all these other things. That's demiurge. That's the demiurge. They're only creating from what they think they see above them, what they think it is above them, the human thought, the memory, the thought of what is above them in their memory. You've been the demiurge the entire time. When you come up to that next level of the demigod, that's the aspect of the archon. This is we really need to stop breaking down and looking at it from one side or the other. Oh my God, it's because no, you're the demigod, you're the demiurge, you're the archon. They're just derivatives based on the behavioral process. They're the derivatives based on the behavioral process. Based on removing the aspects of the emotional aspect for the preservation. That's what they stream and lock themselves into. So you sitting there mad, nigga, they trying to trap us, you trap yourself down here. You don't even understand the power of your fucking name. Everything down here can be used as information. The way I give you another thing, the power that's within your name once you understand your name. Take more science. And when they teach the aspects of you need to have the power in your name and your nationality to become sovereign. As soon as I say that I'm sovereign, I have to build my space of my nationality of what I am in my space as me, as my state of being. G.O.D Alkhemist LLC is my first state of being. That is me stating my sovereignty and my nationality. I ain't need to go spend $3,000 to go get a fucking special ass card. If you feel you need to do that, it's what you feel you need to do. But it ain't something I needed to do. So my sovereignty and my freedom, I create my state, or the United States of America. I create my shadow government. You're the shadow government. You the shadow government. I create my shadow government. My shadow government has all control over everything in my space under the G.O.D Alkhemist brand. The G.O.D Alkhemist LLC, my company. The president or the CEO or the leader of my shit that's Papa Lucifer. And who's employed by Papa Lucifer? Carlos. He does all the physical work. That nigga does all the typing. That nigga does all the setups. That nigga does all the shit physically in the physical realm. He is fully operational and under control. He is fully under the fucking warrant in the nation of me. My sovereignty. Nigga's freedom to do whatever the fuck he want. Because he worked for a motherfucking I'm my own boss. That goes deep into the level of you being your own boss. Everything that I'm going to acquire in these next, as long as I'm here, is going through the aspects of the LLC. Because at the end of it all, I can fully say it, and I can fully say ain't on regurgitation or saying it just to make it sound good. Like you got motherfuckers saying, if you say that you love Jesus at the end of the fucking day, and then guess what? You love Jesus, then you get to go to heaven. Nah, that's the same thing as the law. I can recite the laws of my yacht because everything that I've done that goes against those laws is only based on Carlos. It's only based on Carlos. Papa Lucifer ain't do shit. Lucifer Somni ain't do shit. The G.O.D Alchemist ain't do none of that shit. But I employed somebody to do it for me. I employed something to do it for me. I outsourced that to somebody else to do that for me. This is when you really start looking at, well, they so evil and they doing all these things. They just employing your ass to keep the shit going. That's why they keep giving you vaccination fucking videos. You're employed to carry that shit on based on fear. You're employed to pass that shit on based on fear. Oh my God, say her name, say her name. Let's go protest. They employ your ass to push the propaganda. They employ your dumb ass. They will employ your human thought. That's all they've been, that's all you've been doing the entire time and battling your own damn shadow. That's all you've been doing the entire time. Giving yourself different scenarios that you kept getting triggered by. You put yourself in the position that you're in. It's up to you to learn the reasons of why you did it. Once I embraced this aspect for myself, everything fucking changed. From the way that I was talking to people, the way that I dealt with people, the way that I dealt with things. This is the meaning of me. There is no going back. There's nothing behind me. There's nothing behind me that I have to go back to. Nothing at all. Like nothing. Someone can ask me like someone asked me a question the other day like, when the last time you talked to your moms? I talked to my moms in like 4 months. Oh my God, why? Because I haven't. She had talked to me in 4 months. Apparently the old definitions of what the definitions that we came into that space are no longer available. My mom don't ask me for money. So there's really no conversation. It dwindled down to the point of what I was there for. I was the anchor into that space. I know that I was anchored to that space because I felt like I needed something or owed something from my mother. So the exchange between us was, if I needed a place to stay, well, money. Because I felt like that's the least I could. Because you tell yourself these things, you tell yourself these things in your head, and you feel like you're doing shit based on good intention, but in reality, it's just to sustain that certain space that you're in. Just so you don't have to do something. So you can say, well, I had to do this, and I had to do this, and I had to do this. You give yourself excuses all the fucking time. You give yourself an excuse not to discipline yourself. You give yourself an excuse not to eat right. You give yourself an excuse not to do the things that you need to do. Because if you do it, then it's like, now what? This goes into the aspects of when you manifesting things. When you coming into the power of your manifestation, when you're learning the aspects of you manifesting shit, you got to see yourself there. Here's a question. If you wrote a letter right now to your old self, if you wrote a question to your old self right now, and as of this moment, if you wrote a letter to your old self about everything about you that you're getting rid of and you're letting go of and you're working on and you're pushing yourself forward, and then a TV crew came up in front of your ass. A TV crew came up in front of you with the camera right in front of you. How much of that letter could you read aloud, knowing that the people, the places, the things, the ideas, and everything that's connected to it, that keeps you in that handles your emotional imbalances? How much of that letter could you read out loud on live television in front of people, knowing that motherfuckers going to look at it and look at your ass funny? How much of that letter could you read out loud? Time to be honest with yourself. Could you read the whole letter out loud? I could read my entire past out loud. That's the purpose of me creating the fucking podcast. I can read the whole letter out loud. I have no secrets. I have nothing holding me back. I have no limitations. I removed the limiter from off of me. That's going deep into that healing process with yourself. That's the exact process. You got to be able to put yourself in a position where you're no longer, you can, like, The ownership mentality, the LLC mentality, you being in this LLC mindset, this is not based on if you work in a 9-to-5 job. The LLC mentality, the ownership mentality is being able to transmute all energy through that space. That means everything that you're doing in that space you have accountability and responsibility for, and you're able to transmute and move in every space and do what needs to be done. So take the aspect of what drives you. We get stuck on this is because, as I said before, you can go into every space that you get and get everything that you want, everything that you feel that you deserve, and that's based on your wants. But when it comes time for an individual to it takes accountability, that accountability in yourself, and discipline in the accountability for yourself in order to get exactly what you need. Your needs will never be met until you define your needs of yourself. Your needs can never be met until you understand the need, until you have defined the needs inside of yourself. It won't happen because you're still at a half point. You got to be whole in order to connect. Because as long as you in this half-minded setting, this Demiurge setting, you're always going to you're going to find yourself going through the process with your ego, going through an aspect of suffering, simply to sustain the suffering, because that's the lack mindset. If I got to suffer for a couple of days and not go out for a couple of weeks to go get this money up, then okay, cool. Okay, because as soon as you make the money, you're going to go back to doing what the fuck you just did. You're staying in this space of dormancy. When the key aspect of understanding your urges, that urge and what that urge is first understanding what that urge leads to. Where is it coming from? What is the stream of it? And then taking that urge to the highest possible point, taking it to the level of your journey, your hero's journey, taking it to the realm of the hero's journey. Understand what it's for, because it's all energy that you have now capsulated within a certain space. Most of us put ourselves in spaces where you're capsulate or you're compartmentalizing your energy to go through certain filters. So to your mother, you're going to be one way to your moms. You're going to be another way at your job. You're going to be another way with your homegirls. You'll be another way with your homeboys. You'll be another way with certain people. Even in that space, you're going to be a certain way for each one of them. But here's the key. Here's something that I found out a long time ago doing my inner child work. The reason that you lose so much energy when you go into certain spaces is because you're trying to maintain an old identity. And here's the key about the old identity. Take the thought process like this. If I just give you the layer of slavery, they give you the layer of slavery. Just take the layer of slavery, that traumatic event, and all of the emotional aspects, the anger, the sorrow, the pain, and all of that shit that goes on up in that. Take that one aspect and put that into the personality that you're trying to sustain. Now you saying that I'm never going to be done wrong again. This is not going to happen to me again. Now you got to live. Now you got to live by those attributes. This is what I'm talking about, submitting to the attributes of the ideal. So you're submitting to those attributes to go within that space. Now you leave that space. That's why your ass feel tired. Because you resubmitted yourself to old aspects of yourself. And it takes a lot of energy because it took a lot of energy to maintain that space. It takes a lot of energy to maintain that space. It takes a lot of energy to maintain a behavior and a mentality that you trying to upkeep yourself with. It takes a lot to maintain the external image, that projection, that light in that space. You know it takes a lot because that's why they keep the masses locked within a program, because it takes a lot of light. This goes into the aspect when you think about it takes one entire season for a day. That one entire season, all of these events into one fucking day. Just to make one fucking day make sense. For one day of your life. For this one day. You'll kill yourself stupid for one day in your life. To suffice to a ritual that you brought into your life. My death day comes up on the 16th of next week. This is my death day weekend. It's 3/6, it's 9. I'm 27 forever, it's 9. And this is another key when you transmute your energy, whether I'm in the quantum aspects of myself where I'm 27 forever, or I'm in the human aspect where I'm 36, about to be 36. Either way, it's the end of a cycle. It's 9 and 9s. That's how that shit lined up for me. As above, I'm eternally forever my inner child. I'm 27 forever. As below, I ended a cycle down here. It's the cycle of 9. It's the end of a cycle. How do I embrace this energy within that space? This is you going through these processes inside of yourself. Because until you go through the shadow work, you really are not doing anything. You can start a business. Go ahead. Go ahead. You can go get married. Go ahead. Go get that relationship, all that shit. Go ahead. But it'll never give you everything that you need. It'll never give you everything that you need. It'll never give you everything you require. Because deep down inside yourself, you still gonna have a longing for something. And that one longing, that one attachment that's deep down suppressed is the reason that you'll go back and repeat the cycle. It don't take that much for you to repeat the cycle. That emotional aspect of these every time you go into a space, the emotional channels that are triggered are things that you're supposed to be working on. So if you keep going through relationships, friendship, boyfriend, girlfriend, baby father, baby mother, whatever it may be, you keep going through the same cycle and you ain't recognizing the pattern is based on your emotional preference. The original set of emotionals in your channel with yourself that you became accustomed to and you've just been imitating over and over and over again. Give you the example. This is an example of the story of me. The thought process of my mother. I'm gonna show you how here's the example of how you build an entire filter. My mother, when I was 8 years old, I was on a paper route. No, I wasn't on a paper route. I was cutting grass. I got my first $100. I had that bitch all spread out. I was like, ooh, I got a 20, and I got 2 10s, and I got 5 5s. No, I got 4 5s, and then I got 21s lined up sitting on the couch. Lined up sitting on the couch. My mother took a 5 and 10 ones from my stash. From right there off my stash. I'm looking around the whole house mad as fuck. Like, where my money at? Then punch my little brother in the back of the head. He's sitting there watching cartoons. He didn't do shit. I asked my moms. My mom came out like, man, Trey took my money. Da, 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 da. She was like, man, go check. She was like, with a straight face, my mother said, go check the couch. It might have fell in the couch, stuffed in the couch. What was left in the couch was $3. I was like, this is only 3 of my $15. It took me forever later on down the line, my mother ended up giving me back the $15. But from that point in time, it created a marker or an indentation in my imprint in my subconscious. So now it was the aspect of there was a distrust in my mind. This is already from the programming of already initiating that your mother and your father figures in your life, they're the first motherfuckers that gave you some shit about indoctrination into this space. First ones they gave it to you. They gave you your first lines in information based on your karmic debt. That they gave it to you. So now I'm sitting there in my space and I'm like, yo, wait. So now I'm going forward. This happened when I was 8. So I have this distrust aspect seated in my subconscious of distrust. Now I have this filter being built. I haven't activated it yet because trauma ain't been that bad yet. So now 12 years old comes. 12 years old. I meet my aunt, or my aunt finally tell me about who my father was, give me my introduction to my father, show me a picture of my father. So now that trauma that already happened when I was 5, this is one example, that what happened when I was 5 is reactivated when I was 12. So now the emotional stunt, this emotional channel that was once stunted at this age is now further stalled or further stopped at when I turned 12. So now my distrust grows in this space. So now I go forward. Another event happens. I go forward some more. Another event happens. Every one of these events lead back to that 12-year-old event. It leads back to the 5-year-old event. Every event has another cause that leads me back to that thought process. So I'm carrying this channel with me. I'm carrying this emotional channel with myself going through my life. I come into a space right now. Traumatic event happened. I'm still using these same narratives. The reason I don't trust people around my money. So I have a distrust. I'm repressing the aspects of what happened to me in the beginning. But I'm benefiting from that trauma because that trauma gave me a reason to react and act the way that I do, to have the insecurity that I have in that present state. So in order for me to keep reacting the way that I react and existing, because you're not living, you're existing the way that you exist, you keep imitating and emulating that same process. So now you stuck in this same process of mind, even though you 30 years old, 20 years old, whatever age you in that space, you still emulating from that same old process. You ain't creating anything. It don't matter what you thought you created. That doubt still seated in there. That distrust has now became doubt. That doubt has now became insecurity. That insecurity has become even bigger than what it was. It became grief. That grief now became depression. So now you're trying to find ways to escape. Now you still have doubts. Now you're building yourself based on doubts. Now everything that you go in, there has to be a line. There has to be a space for your doubt to exist. Now every relationship and friendship that you go in, it has to have an underline or a channel for your doubt to exist. So you can keep being the personality that you are in that space. Now you just keep cloning the process. You keep total recalling yourself. You keep going back to that memory. And when you go back to that memory, you make it more and more. Either you're making it less and less your fault, and you're placing blame on something else. So you never achieve actually learning and growing inside of yourself. Take it even deeper. Everything's within that. This is the aspect of that continuum. Because I remember my first, I'll say 24, 25. I want to say 24, 25, 24, 23, 24, 25. 23, 24, 25. Those 3 relationships, all 3 of them women had kids. I don't know why they had kids. They all had boys. Based on the narrative of how I was raised and what I've been through in meeting my father late and my father transitioning and all of this shit, I put all of that energy through that channel. I had a purpose in that space. horrible as they weren't even horrible relationships. They weren't ready. They weren't at a level. They weren't in a space yet. They weren't healed yet. I wasn't healed. So that energy was matriculate. That energy was put into that space of whenever I'm sitting here like, okay, cool. I'll watch your son. I'll watch your son. I'll play with you. I'll go watch your son and all this shit. I'm trying to be the best. I'm trying to be the best father that I never even experienced in that space. All I can do is imitate or rather emulate what I did not want. All I can do is emulate or rather imitate what I did not want in myself when I was a child. But in order for me to emulate that, I gave myself the distraction. So I put this is when you're putting all of yourself into things that you shouldn't be putting all of yourself into. You're only putting half of yourself in there anyway. So you're trying to put 100% of yourself in there. Guess what the other 50% is? Or guess what the other percentage is? If half of yourself is the human thought, your thought is half. What else are you putting into that space? You're putting your shadow into that space. That's your ego going into that space. Your untapped, the untrained aspects of your shadow, you're putting into that space. So now you have the paranoia because of your shadow. You got this distrust still. I got the distrust still boiling up inside of myself. I got the paranoia and the depression and the grief. I got all of these things building up inside of myself as I'm sitting here as I'm emulating, trying to be the best father that I ever can be to these little boys. You stuck in that space. You got to admit these things with yourself. That way, if the relationship didn't work, I had something to blame it on. It didn't work out. Why it didn't work out? It's a simple reason that it didn't work out. But I wanted to complicate the reason so I could keep using those same emotional blockages that I had in myself from when I was 5. I can keep in myself when I was 12. I can keep them same emotional blockages going. And I can just find a different reason. Giving myself a rational reason. That rational realm of thought. Being in a demigod, being on my journey. So I didn't have to apply or really be honest with myself. This takes a level of honesty that's beyond change. This takes a level of honesty that changes your whole entire fucking mentality. Everything fucking changes. And as everything changes, you invest into these changes, and then you become the observer of your changes. This is how you become whole with yourself. This is how you become real with yourself. Instead of you sitting there, because a lot of people are sitting in spaces right now. I did readings today, and they were like, "Oh my God, my child, my child been through something that, and I thought I would never have to read." Guess what? It's not going to be based the same. It's the same formula, same fucking formula. Your wants that you wanted when you were younger, that you didn't receive. Now you're going to try to give those wants to your child, everything your child wants. You're going to give your child everything they want. But in that same substructure, you can't give them anything that they need because you haven't defined what you need inside of yourself yet. So they're going to go through the same process of the fear and the pressure that led you to what you're trying to do. They're going to go through the same process. Everybody around you is going to go through the same process. They're just going to keep cloning and imitating the same behavior. The same pressure that you felt at that age, whatever age you got stuck at, the pressure of you trying to maintain this mentality, you lost your childhood. You got stuck in that same childhood mindset. It ain't going to be the same thing that happened to you necessarily inside of that space. For some it is, for some it ain't. Everybody's experience and everybody's observation is going to be different. But you're going to go through that same shit. That same thought process. You're going to have the same chance to have the same conversation that you needed to have with yourself at that point in time. This is if you got kids. Or if you got kids, if you have kids around you, or if you have people around you that are going through some shit, because it's always going to be given to you. Yes, exactly. That's the generational curse. The generational curse is only based upon, there only can be a curse or corruption if there's already corruption within the vessel. There only can be a curse religion told y'all, don't think more highly of yourself than you ought to. But the same book says, see yourself as the Most High. Exactly. That's the exact point. Everything that you're doing, that's like going into this. Yeah, that's the exact point. Like, you want to take out things, but you're not understanding the aspects. You get stuck there. You getting stuck. Motherfuckers get stuck in shit, and their mindset is like, nigga, it's there. It's written in there. Man, that shit been tampered with. I was reading a post earlier. That shit been, man, I read it. That shit been tampered with. I ain't dealing with that book. All right, cool. I'm gonna give you an example. Let me go get the book real quick. La, 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 la. This is one of my favorite motherfucking books. This is one of my favorite motherfucking books. It's the Nag Hammadi Scriptures. In the Nag Hammadi Scriptures, it has the Book of Thomas, the Origin of the Word, it has the Gospel of Thomas. If you have not seen the aspects, if you've not read the Nag Hammadi Scriptures, it has the Gospel of Judas. Oh my God, I've been looking for the Gospel of Judas book the entire time. It has all of those missing books. So here's the thought process. Here's a thought process that makes no sense when it's common sense. If I grab this book that has the Gnostic text or the books that are not within the holy text, and I get rid of the other book, this book don't make no damn sense either, because I need the other book with this book. I need the two halves to make them whole. Or else I'm gonna use this and think I'm a demigod, or I'm gonna use the other book and think I'm gonna go by the Demiurge aspect. Even to the aspects of motherfuckers be like, your Yadaldabaoth came down here and did some shit. Nigga, you're your Yadaldabaoth. You're the Demiurge. As long as you stay stuck within the material aspect based on half of yourself, meaning you need the material aspect to define you, the materialistic aspects of what is the materialistic aspect of what is you're using it to define you. That goes down to the title that you hold. So just simply holding on to, I'm black and I'm pro-black. Nigga, you the antagonist. Congratulations, you are the antagonist. You are the antagonist. You're the antagonist. You're the antagonist to the higher level of these higher level beings. You're the antagonist. Congratulations. The last thing that I'm going to state is that aspect. Like, what the fuck up? You can get stuck in those you get stuck in those aspects because you are still trying to sustain the structure of your survival. The truth don't need to be argued. But when you start understanding these aspects and you go into that point when you start looking at these specs, you understand why everything is playing out the way it need to play out. You need it. You need these motherfuckers to be out there dressed up like Sub-Zero and all that good stuff. You need these motherfuckers out there arguing back and forth because it ignitions, because it brings in the aspect of the high emotional detail, that high emotional state that goes into the state of behavior to show that the higher the emotional intent, the higher the emotion in a space, The deeper the emotional channels in the space, that lets you know that you're at the end of a cycle. I said it in the podcast and I said it earlier in the week. When Trump came into office and rose the emotions of the American people, you knew you were in a state of decline. Any motherfuckers that knew when you knew you was in a state of emotional decline. You knew you was in a state of decline. Because guess what happened right after that? It was supposed to be a war in Iran or whatever the hell that shit is. And then guess what happened? Yes, exactly. Hypervigilance. Guess what happened? Now you in COVID, you sitting down in your house and you can't do shit. The end of a fucking cycle. All that high ass that emotional content, if you still can be triggered and be taken to a state of acting outside or acting within the behaviors of the human thought, you still have work that you have to do. That's the shadow work. When you are being triggered by somebody getting knocked off and popped out in the street, and you can't look at it, if I can look at any situation, oh my God, a black person got shot. Guess what I do when I look at it? That motherfucker free. They gone. They might come back. What was their legacy like? I'm looking for underlining shit. What's their legacy like? Because you're going into a space with yourself now where ownership is going to be your key. Ownership has always been the key. Owning your names, owning yourself is being the key. But when we looked at it on the surface level, you thought it was like, ooh, I'm going to go own my name. So I'm going to go get my name on a little card. I'm going to go get my name on a card. That ain't got nothing to do with your name. Because until you can build shit on your fucking name, you can't sustain a legacy. The only way to sustain a legacy is to bring yourself into that space. That's what I was talking about earlier. Like me being sovereign, me being free. Now it's time for me to define my freedom. What is my sovereignty? What is my freedom? So, okay, cool. I have my freedom. So, all right, cool. Let me transmute everything through they fucking shit. I am free. Therefore, G.O.D Alkhemist LLC, that is the company, that is the environment. I am free. I'm free. All right, cool. I want freedom of speech. All right, cool. Let me start a fucking podcast. That's me implementing and transmuting through the aspects of freedom. The freedom of speech. Using this shit to your advantage. Once you understand the spell, you use it to your own gain anyway. It's one thing for you to go grab a book that gives you the meaning of every letter of the English language, and then you be like, yeah, see, words and spells. That's one aspect. How are you applying the spell? How are you applying the spell? Because you in the space, you ain't going to go learn a different language. If you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. But while you inside of that space, this is understanding the duality of the space. But you can't even tap into the full levels of duality because, why can't I step into the full level? Why can't a motherfucker step into full levels of duality? Because you still own that. You still in your Demiurge state. You still trying to suppress shit down here. Wait, let me read smooth. But how does it justify you not checking in on your moms to see how she's doing? I said it because I'm distant to my moms as well, but I put part of my work to get over. Here is the key with the aspect. That is an excellent fucking question. My love for my mother is unconditional, is full compassion, and in full understanding. You dig? That has nothing. I am my mother now. I understand the aspect. I've accepted the aspects in myself that made me of my mother. I am my mother. I'm my mother. If it comes down to a point, I don't feel the need or the want to have to go around my mother. This doesn't change my love for my mother. This doesn't change if my grandmother come through. If my grandmother come through tonight and say, hey, go buy go by your mama house. I'm gonna go by my mother's house, but I'm going in from a higher aspect. I don't have a, when you're going into that space, what you're getting over is when you're making this separation, it's not suppressing things. This is the key. When you're making the separation, you're not suppressing things. See, what happens for a lot of us, like, especially with mothers, fathers, family members, it's not about suppressing that feeling or that feeling with your mother or your family member. It's about bringing yourself into understanding and taking it from under here in that thought process to the higher process. So, like, for me, for example, without having to convince myself, my mother, every time I go to my mom's house, every time I went to my mom's house before I went through a healing process, if I went into my mom's living room, my mom got the altar over the fireplace, and she got every one of my rewards from being manager of the month or employee of the month. She got all my rewards lined up on the altar. She got an altar. She got an altar to Carlos sitting up there right now. My mother will always remember me as that individual. Always. My mother would tell me stories about when I was 10, and she taught me out my first bout with cooking eggs in a frying pan. My mom is always going to be in that space. She's solidified to that space. My mother always wanted, at the end of the day, regardless of what you think of what your mother is, your mother in a natural aspect, always in the natural aspect, in that mothering and that nurturing aspect, always nurtured you to be the best version that you could be, regardless of anything. This is how you understand that she did this based on what she did. That's how you start learning the process and accepting your role in the space. Because I can go to my mom's house right now. My mom will look at me. My mom will look at me for about 4 minutes and look at me like, "Don't be coming over here. Don't be coming over here." And my mother will go just like this. "Don't come over here all unexpected and uncalled for." My mother say that for about 5 minutes. My mother then walk into the kitchen. I'll walk into the kitchen. My mother start smiling at me and be like, "What you been up to?" I can tell my mother everything I've been up to. I've been working. I've been doing my client. I've been doing classes. I've been doing therapy with people, working on people with their therapy, with their shadow work and all of this. What's the shadow work? Tell her what shadow work is. It's gonna get to a point where I'm telling her things, and then she's gonna the fear of the on-air time, like, you know, like they get the on-air thing above the radio station when they on air, so you can't disturb them. That on this up can't go past this point. Can't go past that point. Exactly. You got to do that work, then come back to your higher self. Then you will see her strengths and not her weaknesses. You will then, you would then show her higher self. Because in the ultimate aspect, you're becoming the ultimate example. You're becoming the ultimate example. If I go to my mother right now, I am the ultimate example for my mother to see. Now, whether my mother accepts the example, the spirit is going to penetrate, crack that shell, and let that shit go in. I don't have to be there for that process. So now, and we going deeper, if my mother were to transition right now, the amount of healing work that I've done right now, if I was to go, I've told the story about going, if I go to my mother's funeral right now, I don't care if it's in the middle of a fucking church. If I go in there right now wearing all white, I'm wearing, to anybody's funeral, I'm wearing all white. I might wear black. I might wear black accents, the tie and all that shit. Or I might wear blue. I don't know. I don't know which one I want to wear. I might either wear all, but I know the suit going to be all white. When I go into my mother's, if I go into my mother's transition, when I go in there with her flowers, when I go in there, I'm doing spell work. I already bounded these flowers because my mother ain't coming back here. The work that I'm doing, the work that you're doing to heal your generational lineage is to make sure motherfuckers ain't coming back. Because I know I'm not coming back. I've done the work not to come back. so I can give my mother safe passage. So when she transitioned back down here, even in this same scape, it makes everything is gonna force you to look back at yourself. Because if my mother came back, sister came back, friend came back, whoever the fuck come back, they make that return trip. I know that I did everything. I left this space empty. I left empty. I fulfilled my purpose. You cannot fulfill your purpose until you are empty. If you leaving out this shit full, that means you ain't do your work. You ain't do everything you supposed to do. That's the key. I'm leaving out this bitch empty. I'm leaving out this bitch empty. I'm not, because I'm fulfilling my purpose. I built the legacy. When you're building your legacy, bringing yourself into building your legacy, building your space, everything that you do that comes into the natural physical manifestation, you know it's going to get fed on. Yes, heart light is a feather. You know it's going to get fed on. Everything you do in that is you either feeding or feeding upon. You're getting fed on or you're feeding down here. That's in the Gnostic text. You either being fed on or you're either feeding or you're being fed upon. The middle point, you get to be able to, you being fed on, but you get to write the shit off and you get to get some food in there too. This is how you acquire your luxury. 1 second. This is how you acquire the luxuries that you can get to. Yeah. Everything that you're doing should be in the aspects of you're breaking a cycle. Everything that you do naturally breaks a cycle. Everything that you tapping into, you breaking a cycle. You ending cycles, you ain't in that space no more. It don't exist. The only thing that exists is the emotional aspect. Only thing that exists down here is the emotional or the behavior. Everything that you fighting down here is based on the behavior. You always fighting your behavior. You fighting old behaviors. You fighting them. All you doing is fighting emotions. Your emotions, your behaviors become the conduits of the shadows that are around you. If they're strong enough, they become the projection of the person that comes into your life. Friend, family, all these individuals. Everything's in that space. That's the handler. That's the handler. The one that controls, like, motherfucker, man, they cloned Chris Brown, or they cloned Gucci Man, or they cloned a rapper, they cloned this person, they did this, they cloned this person, they cloned this person, they did this, they did this. All they're showing you is the aspects of how cloning, they're showing you something that you've already done, that you've been doing unconsciously for years. You've been making clones for years. You master cloning. Remember, we've been here so fucking long that we forgot half of the shit that we're doing. So it only looks exciting or it becomes a distraction because you are afraid you are now in a space where you're stuck within the human thought or the traditional moral parameters of that's not black people shit. Black people don't do that. Black people don't do this. Meanwhile, they're gonna keep giving you the implements of your own shit to you every day. Keeping you stuck within that position within your own mind. That old paradigm that you got stuck in. You got stuck in the old paradigm, you put yourself there. You put yourself in this paradigm. You put yourself in that space. You put yourself in the place that you're at. Nobody else did it. There's nothing outside of you that puts you inside of the space that you at and hurts you. There are only remnants based on the emotional aspect that you got to feel The trauma activates everything. Just like when you get aroused or you get excited, it leads you to something. The higher aspect of being aroused, the highest aspect of being aroused is it leads you to the aspect of love. It's the direction of the love, that energy, that flow. But if you still got urges that you suppress and the things that you haven't dealt with, then when you get aroused and now you only think you're compartmentalizing it, not understanding that it's the whole scape of everything, then you can't tap into the full aspects of your energy anyway in that space. There's like, I always say this about this book. Every time I speak about this book, best book, I've actually did a lecture on this book. It's the Sex 101 lecture that I've done. I did it. It was like one of the fourth or fifth lectures that I did back in 2000 and the ending. I want to say the end of 2019. No, end of 2019 when I first started Occult. When I started doing lectures, I talked about the way of the superior man. The way of the superior man on the surface level, it'll teach you how to get women and champion your job. But when you go to the deeper aspects, it really teaches you how to heal the masculine aspects. It really teaches you how to heal the masculine aspects and integrate with the feminine aspects of yourself. Yeah, this is what it gives you, those aspects. Just like when you read The Art of War. The Art of War on one aspect, yes, it teaches you how to subdue opponents and all that shit. But in the reality of it, it's based on shadow work. How to deal with your shadow. The 4 agreements is how to deal with your shadow. The 48 laws of power. How to deal with your shadow. The Black Law Dictionary. It teaches you it takes the detail that it breaks down the original 12 laws of the universe, or the 7 hermetic laws, and it breaks them down it breaks down the structure, it matriculates it, it's broken down into the layers of the book of the laws that they use down here. How you can move around in this space and do the shit that you need to do. Everything down here is based on that. Everything you doing down here is based on your original premise. It's just broken down and it's degenerated based on behavior. You get stuck in the behavior aspect. You dare not do the things that the white man does, because the white man, you saying, is sinister and evil. But meanwhile, man, we need to get our money up and we need to do this, and this. Even if you got the money, you don't know what the fuck to do with it anyway. You don't know how to navigate the finance. You don't understand how to navigate your own energy, your own currency. So how are you going to understand those balances? This is ownership mentality. Because once you understand and you've healed yourself, you truly integrated, you're the divine union of yourself, then you can actually hold up them pillars of the LLC. You now understand what it means to own a company. It's not based on, man, I got this company so I can do what I want. Because guess what? You still going to be doing what the fuck you can. Whether you work in a 9-to-5 job or you own your own, you got a company going. As long as you still got the old 9-to-5, as long as you got the mentality of the 12 by 12 mentality, you're going to do everything based on the 12 by 12 mentality. So now that you moving into the ownership mentality, you own a company, now you're going to go into the same aspect. The ownership mentality is based on my worth and my value based on this times this is my product, is my value and the quality of my product. If I sell myself 12 times for $1,000 a piece, but if I'm still in the old mentality, it don't matter if I got one product and I sell that bitch 12 times at $1,000 a piece. Okay, cool. I got my little money on me. Don't matter, because I still got the same 9-to-5 mentality. I'm still going to treat that. I'm still going to treat this new energy that I got in my space. I'm still going to treat it like a paycheck. I'm still going to treat it like a paycheck every week. So now I'm going to give myself a false sense of expectancy. So now that I gave myself a false sense of expectancy, when that shit declines and my emotions rise, those same emotional channels that I haven't dealt with are what are going to stop me. You know what, man, maybe this wasn't what I needed to be doing. Man, maybe this ain't what I was supposed to do. Man, now I'm gonna go get me this little 9-to-5 job. Or are you gonna find something based on the 9-to-5 mentality? You're gonna try to do something based on the 9-to-5 mentality. The same 9-to-5 mentality got motherfuckers reading their natal charts and reading these books on numerology and taking in information and only applying it to the level where they're at. So they sound smart where they're at. They can't simplify it. They can't break it down. They can't use it in, they can't create scenarios. So if I can't create a scenario and break down and synthesize the information I'm taking in, how the fuck am I going to sit there and manifest some shit? Because manifestation moves by the same mechanics. The same mechanics of the 70-30 rule that I talked about is synonymous to my aspect of manifesting. How do I see myself? That's why when you go to a job, like, where you see yourself in 5 years? How do you see yourself in 5? Ask yourself that same fucking question. How you see yourself in 5 years? Well, the question changes. The answer changes when you concentrating on your path. Yeah. Exactly. No one else. If you're not defining the space, it's up for grabs. If you have not defined your space, it's up for grabs. Anybody can fall. Anybody can drop into your shit. That's like if a nigga has not defined himself, is defined by his urges, any bitch can hop on his dick. If a chick has not defined her urges or her worth in herself, validated in herself, any nigga can jump in that shit. And then she'll go through the same process, same pattern. I can't believe another nigga did this to me. And then even when they get up higher up, that's why I don't date Aries. That's why I don't date them Aries niggas, because them niggas ain't shit. And I don't date this, and this. You stuck somewhere. You stuck in it. The reason you keep meeting Aries niggas, because Aries niggas is because you meeting Aries, the Aries energy, them motherfuckers is headstrong. So apparently you're still headstrong about moving forward the way that you moving forward. That's why you keep meeting Aries niggas. Exactly. That's the exactly. So now you sitting there in your space, you like, man, I don't like them. Why? Why I keep meeting these? You keep meeting them because they're supposed to be giving you aspects of what the fuck you supposed to be learning. That's the need aspect of you being in that relationship. That's the need aspect of you being in that friendship. You need to see some shit that you do not see in yourself. That's why you gravitate towards certain people anyway. Because you see something in them that you've seen in you connect, you attach to something that you've seen in yourself. And the connection is based on something that you see in them, that you're able to see in them that you have not accepted into yourself. So why you getting mad? You supposed to outgrow these motherfuckers. You supposed to outgrow the people that you've been around. If they're not advancing, if you in a space right now where the conversations you having are not giving you any type of growth, or you feel like, yo, nigga, I can use some of this information. If you're having conversations and you can't use at least 80% of what's been said in that conversation, that means you cannot use any of that for learning. You can't use any of that for reflection. You can't use any of that for an experience reference. You can't use any of that for observation. It's time for you to leave that position. That cycle's over. if you're in a position, if you're at a position at your job and you upset because they're not giving you a raise or they're not giving you all that shit, instead of you sitting there, yes, exactly. While you sitting in that position with yourself at your job and you feeling like your job is not giving you everything that you need or everything, they're going to give you everything that you want. They're going to give you some hours. They're going to give you a paycheck. They're going to give you a chance to make some money. Okay, cool. They're not challenging me anymore. You're not challenging yourself. How about the next time? How about you challenge yourself and then ask your boss, hey, what do you think about me working this position? Or what do you think about me doing this? They're going to give you exactly what you need in order to get to that position. But you got to remove this aspect of they're going to try to hold me back. Because I ain't never, that's one thing that I can say for myself. I never held that thought process in my mind. Because in that space, this is when you start understanding that you benefited from trauma. In the aspects of me needing to be accepted, there was certain shit that I suppressed, which would be the trauma within that space. So when I'm going to my job and motherfuckers like, oh man, that nigga always doing some shit for the fucking boss. He always in the office with the boss, so he always doing this, and this. They're just using him. I heard it from them, but it never triggered me from stopping to do what I needed to do. So it served a purpose. But once I learned what I needed to learn within that space, that became louder. Because that's the other end of the polarity. Because now I'm in the other end of that space. Because now that I've been accepted by my boss in that space and I'm making the money that I need, I still have an inherent need for something. Remember, when you're going in half-ass, you still have a need for some shit. You still have that longing for some shit. You want to be accepted on both sides. So now my expectancy is I'm going to start hanging out with them. I'm going to start hanging out with them niggas. Niggas is always late to work, smoking weed in the back of the damn job. I'm just standing there because I'm not smoking weed while I'm at work, or I'm not drinking while I'm at work. So I'm just standing there looking fucking stupid. And I'm looking at myself like, why the hell am I standing here? What the fuck am I really doing? Trying to be accepted. Oh, this is the other half of the aspect of where I'm at in my life. What is this showing me? And this is going back in meditation, like really looking back in those moments, becoming self-aware. You start turning all that shit on. You like, God damn, nigga, I never really thought about it like that with myself yet. Because now that I'm in this realm of me being whole, me being unified to myself, now I'm in a space based on connection. So now every time that I'm moving in these spaces, it's like the aptitude of what I require is different. And I have a confidence in what I require. I can build off of in detail what I require in a certain position. There's no more of this aspect of, if I'm this way, then this motherfucker ain't gonna like me, or this person ain't gonna want to fuck with me no more. Okay. That's nice. That's great. You don't like me, no, cool. I don't dislike you. We've just outgrown this space. We just outgrew this space. There's certain parameters that I'm not willing to invest in anymore because you're not changing. You're not willing to change, so why would I be willing to invest? You're not willing to go through you're not willing to go through the trigger changes that you know you need to go through. So why would I want to invest? That's the business mindset. That's the business mentality. That's why someone can look at somebody and, well, I know you got kids and in this narrative, and I know you got kids and I know you've been struggling, but you keep showing up late to work and people are complaining, and they're going to give you all of these. They're going to give you line by line all the reasons. they're going to give you all of the reasons to why you got to go. Instead of you being emotional to why they leave or why you got to get fired or why you got to go, really sit there with those reasons. Really be honest with yourself. Why were you always late? Even though you gave them the reason that you had to, because you had to stay later because your baby mother, your baby father wouldn't come picking up the kids. That means for yourself, you got to find out, you got to find another way to accommodate for the shit that you're doing. You trying to take everybody else's accountability, take everybody else's things into your accountability because you still got that longing aspect in yourself of, if I don't do it, then who else gonna do it? They gonna learn the fucking day. Exactly. You gotta be willing. You gotta be willing because your unwillingness to walk by yourself and move through your shit and go through your process is going to reflect in your inability to. Motherfuckers are gonna show up in your life to be. Can you hold my hand through this shit? And you're gonna think it's really nothing. And for some point, it's gonna go back and forth because you need to experience it at that point in time. This is bringing everything into your favor. Because at a point in time, if you feel the aptitude or this deep longing to hold somebody's hand through some shit, there's something that you got to learn there. But in that same space, if you feel like some motherfucker wants you to hold their hand too long, that's also something that you need to learn within that space. You got to remove the bias aspect. This narrative of, man, I'm tired of helping people because all they do is fuck me over, and this is why I don't trust motherfuckers now. You don't trust yourself. Because if you trusted yourself, you will be more self-aware of the situations that you walk into where motherfuckers are using distrusting tactics. That's why I don't open up to people, because every time I open up to people, they use that shit against me. If you honored and understood yourself, you can walk into positions being more self-aware of motherfuckers using shit against you. The only way someone can use it against you, use it and corrupt what you said to them, is if it's still corrupt within you. And the aspect of the corruption is that you have not, it's something that is disordered or outside of balance inside of yourself. There's nothing no one can use against me in that. There's nothing I can say to somebody that they can use against me that is because that is not disordered within me. This is your process. Until you're coming into this process of understanding with yourself, you're always going to keep going. You're going to keep going through the same cycle. You're going to experience the same emotional channel. You're not going to catch on to the emotional channel. So therefore, you're not catching on to the pattern. Therefore, you're going to be sitting there mad because you ain't catching on to the pattern. And then you're going to be mad and trying to blame other people for them showing you your pattern. So they keep showing you the pattern. They're illustrating the pattern through behavior for you to learn how to fix the behavior in yourself, the corresponding to the behavior. Because you'll sit there and tell a motherfucker all day. You'll sit there and tell somebody every fucking day. You'll tell everybody something that you don't want so they can give you what you. You'll tell somebody what you don't want so they give you what they think you want. And they're only going to be able to give you what you want. They're only going to be able to give you a stimulus check. Until you define the needs of this, the stimulus check in order for you to advance and go forward, you'll always need another stimulus. You'll always be wanting for another stimulus check. You'll always be wanting for something because you ain't learned how to save. That's simple shit. You ain't learned how to save. You ain't stepped out of your weight class to learn how to save. You ain't stepped out of your weight class to learn anything about financial literacy. You ain't stepped out of the weight class. And the reason you can't step out of that weight class because you still stuck in the old trauma aspect of building based on lack. You still stuck on, I never want to go back to being broke. I never want to go back to being broke. So now the filter that you create is I never want to look broke. Said I'm going to do that one more time. You create a filter based on the trauma. Remember I was telling you about the trauma. So you have that trauma that y'all were destitute. Your mom was spending all the money. Your mom smoked all the money with crack or whatever. Pops was stealing your Sega Genesis and all this types of shit. See every Kendrick Lamar song. And then you create the narrative and you create the program in your mind of I never want to be I never want to be broke again. So now you create the filter of the personality of never looking like you broke. So now that you created this in the space, past, present, future, same continuum, the past, the present, and the future, all in the same continuum, where's the room for you to readjust and change and elevate? How can you recognize the pattern when you got all the blocks filled? That means you got to sacrifice that look, that image that you stuck on in order for you to actually go back and go through the process. You got to sacrifice that look, that image that you stuck on so you can become the authentic aspects of yourself. You stuck on not being authentic. You want to be authentic. You want to be a real nigga or bad bitch. Okay, cool. That's nice. Now you got to accept everything that comes with it. Whatever you coming into, you got to accept everything that comes with it. That's the aspect of you. When you become whole, now you can connect to the whole aspect. Now you ain't got to worry about working down here in this lower level. You got something employed down here to do it for you. Now you ain't got to worry about, oh my God, somebody going to look at me and say that I don't care. I don't care. I can care less. I've came to a point in my life where I care less about certain things now. But I have the ultimate compassion and understanding for whatever space that I'm in and whatever I'm doing. You get stuck. That's the cloning process. And then you have handlers that handle that process. Now you got handlers. I just thought about it when motherfuckers talk about, oh, yo, nah, you know, niggas be out here, da. I need a nigga that can handle me. That sound like clone shit. I need a bitch that can handle me. Nigga, that sound like clone shit. That means you ain't mastered your own emotions. You want somebody to handle you. That means you're acknowledging that you need a handler. I don't need no fucking handler. The fuck? Somebody always trying to change me and make me do things that's outside of me. Nigga, maybe you need it. If every motherfucker that you ever met is telling you the same things that you need to change or invest in those changes, maybe it's time for you to start investing into those changes. What are you afraid of? Man, I ain't afraid of shit. Yeah, you are. You got to be honest with yourself. You afraid of looking like a bitch, nigga. You afraid to look like a bitch, nigga. You afraid to look like a basic bitch. You created that fucking filter. Now that's the clone that it's the mask that you want to live through. But deep down, because it goes back to a point to where you were a bitch nigga. Because you was a bitch nigga because you couldn't defend your mom from her boyfriend or your pops hitting her upside the head. So at a point in time in your life, you were a bitch nigga. You went to school wearing hand-me-down dresses from your older sisters. So yes, at a point in time, you was a basic bitch. You got to be honest with yourself. Because all you doing is replicating that and bringing it into the new space and allowing other motherfuckers to feed off of it. And then you ain't even getting paid for it. You ain't getting nothing from it. You ain't getting shit from it that can help you sustain any type of legacy. Doing what you can in the space. You're doing what you can because everything's already been predetermined. You got that this is that predestination complex. You got that predestination complex in your mind, so that's how you move forward. Well, my mom did this, and I said I didn't want to do that, so okay, cool. But until you understand what the fuck your mom did, even if you don't do it, guarantee somebody around you doing it. Your mom sucked dick for a fix. And even if you not doing it, you got a homegirl that's sucking dick for $40, some crab legs, and 8 grams of weed. It's in your space for you to learn it, regardless. It's going to be there because you ain't learned it yet. Your pops suck dick for $5. Now, you ain't doing it, but someone in your circle doing it. You got a homeboy that's out there doing some outlandish shit for some money. It's there in that, it's in the space. It's going to keep permeating because you have not accepted that aspect. I never could do that. Why not? Nothing is off limits. It's all about the aspect of the boundary, taking it to the higher aspect. You stuck on that half or the other half. I would never do this or I never could do that. I'm going to give you an exercise. One basic exercise that I've given out before is when you want to interface, let's say you want to interface with Kali energy or the mother goddess or some goddess energy. Let's say you want to fuck with Kali energy. That means, in a basic sense, that means you got to become Shiva. You got to become Shiva. That means as you're doing a meditation, you got to imagine Shiva interfacing with Kali. That means you got to imagine everything about Shiva's body being your body. You got to acknowledge, you got to become Shiva. How do you become Shiva? That means you got to imagine everything about this nigga being you. So now, what's going to get triggered? Man, I ain't doing that. That's gay. I ain't looking at no other man, and I ain't looking at no other man dick, and da-da-da-da-da. You see how the trigger come up? That's how the trigger pop up. You can't interface with Kali because you can't become full Shiva. Yes, this is all about you becoming a whole. So then you go to the feminine aspect, and you want to become Kali in that space. This is just an example. You want to embrace the Shiva energy. You first got to interface with the Kali energy. So you got to become Kali. That means you got to imagine yourself with Kali. And for the feminine aspect, it might be easier. But still in that space, in order for you to do it, this is you acknowledging them triggers so you can become whole. So you ain't in the half aspect of yourself. You looking at it from one half. I've done this for 36 years and 45 years of my life. I ain't never had to do that. And that's why your ass ain't never been no. That's why your ass you haven't advanced. Man, I've been doing my shit for this many years and this many months and this many days. And that's why your ass ain't advanced. You still in the you still suppressing urges instead of understanding your urges from the fucking. You're still suppressing your urges instead of learning them. You're still suppressing your urges instead of learning them to their full content. You're still putting yourself in a position where you still feel like you got to suppress some shit. You got to cut some shit off. Even into the aspects of like, I'll put it like this. Even in the aspects of, let's say you was, even in the aspects of until you understand it in full, this is the letting go process for certain things. Because for a lot of us in certain spaces, I'll give you an example. I didn't want to. I had an issue with embracing the aspects of drinking alcohol or appeasing to the spirits because I was still stuck in a narrative or a trauma factor of my uncle being a fucking whole ass fucking alcoholic and be getting emotional and all that shit. So at a point in time, I suppressed this aspect of myself, but not understanding that understanding the reasoning behind it, you have to separate away from it. This is when you start understanding the inner, you got to separate. You have to break away from certain aspects of yourself in order to understand them. It's like when I tell people, when I give clients that 7 days, don't talk to nobody, don't text nobody, don't call nobody, don't pick up your phone when you first wake up. The first thing you do when you wake up, pick up a bottle of water and sit your ass down on the damn ground and sit up in your bed and meditate. You mean don't call nobody? Nope, don't call nobody. What if my phone rings? Don't answer it. What if somebody send me a text message? Don't answer it. Because 9 times out of 10, the same 3 people that have been calling you every single day, after about the 3rd or 4th day, they're gonna be like, "Damn, I was gonna see if I can borrow a couple dollars any fucking way." So you win anyway. This even go to the aspects. Certain things we gotta let go of because we stuck in this cycle of anger. We stuck looking for a cycle to stay in a cycle of anger. So take this. Here's another thought. If I'm sitting in a position and I let someone borrow $20 and now they avoid me every time and I got to go fight to go get my $20 back. Eventually, this is how you know that you've learned. Give that motherfucker $20. You know they're not going to show up. You know they're not going to call you. You know they're going to avoid you. Guess what you just learned? This is how you transmute. This is how you transmute that anger and take it into a higher aspect of yourself. Guess what you get to do? That's the price that you had to pay to make motherfuckers leave your ass alone. Everything got a fucking price. You might as well learn how to write all that shit off. Because if you can't give somebody $20 and because we all know that line, like, don't give something that you got to get right back anyway. So you already knew that point was already in there. So if you needed it back, that means you shouldn't have lent it anyway. So the next layer of that would be, if I give this motherfucker $20 and they don't call me for a couple weeks, I guess that's the price that I have to pay to see what's really real in my life. You have to make these points of interest. I think I've said it before. The last time that I actually talked to my mother was like, my mother sent me a text. It said, "I haven't talked to you in 2 months. You haven't talked to me. You ain't called me in 2 months." I waited 4 days before I sent her the reply. You ain't text me in 2 months. I ain't received a text yet. I ain't had a text, a phone call, nothing at all. Because I knew what the expectancy was. Because if I answered it based on my old aspects of myself, or if I was triggered to answer it or felt guilt for not answering her in 2 months, I would have gave her this whole spill about, yeah, I've been doing this, I've been working. You know how I am when it comes to work. Yeah, I know how it comes to you I know how it is when it comes to you working. And it would have been something else. She would have attached to something inside of me. It would have been something about money. It would have been something about one of my sisters. It would have been something about one of my brother. It would have been something about somebody. And then I would have been sitting there analyzing the situation. I would have sat there and psychoanalyzed the situation, gave her the answer that she's not going to listen to. And I would have been sitting there like, damn, you ain't going to take my advice. Because you come into a point in yourself where once you understand your energy truly, get your emotions in balance, and you standing on your square, you're not going to want to emotionally invest yourself in the shit. This is the business mentality. This is the LLC mentality. I'm not going to sit here and invest into things that I don't see any change. I don't feel It's business. This shit down here is a business. The United States of America is a corporation. Man, they treat us like numbers and employees. Nigga, because you are a number and an employee to them. Instead of you sitting here trying to buck against them, yeah, they try to treat us like numbers and employees and all this shit. All right, cool. How the fuck do I learn the game? Learn the game up. Learn the game. Learn the shit. If I'm a number and an employee, I might as well see how many motherfucking EINs I can create. But the power's in my name. Every EIN is a social security number. That's how they register me anyway. At least, if I know they're going to try to take money from me, exactly. At least, while I'm down here, and I know they're going to use I know they're going to tax me off shit. They're going to tax whatever I make. At least I can write that shit off at the end of the year. At least I can write it off. That's how this is ownership. Because that's the game that's played in this realm. You trying to, motherfucker, the first key is you standing up above, like everybody seen that meme where like all we got to do is stand up and the game is over. And everybody like to post that meme, but nobody wants to explain what it means to stand up and so the game is over. You got to learn the game. It does you no good to stand up and knock the board game over because the board game can be reset. It does you no good to say, I'm going to get the fuck out of the Matrix because the Matrix can be reset. You've seen it in small batches. Like you seen it in small batches with Kanye West. They hit that nigga go crazy. They hit that nigga with the shit again. Put that nigga right back in. You seen it happen to niggas already. So there must be deeper. It must be a deeper aspect to it. Not just standing up. Not just the protest. Not just the marching. Not just the riot. Even if you sitting there rioting and you break into a fucking house. I talked about this in a podcast episode. If you ran during a riot, during the protest, and you stole some TVs, and you sold the TVs in the hood, you should have took that money and got an LLC. Go get yourself a dropship site because you're good at selling TVs for the low. Go find you, get an LLC, find a dropship site, and then sell TVs wholesale out your fucking room, out your house. You ain't got to worry about now you ain't got no reason to worry about. Now the excuse of niggas gonna run in my house and rob me, you ain't got no inventory. It's in a warehouse. They send it out with your address on it. You got a business account. So there's no money in the house. What you're doing is removing all excuses from stopping you from doing the shit that you need to do. This is shadow work in depth. Because once you do the shadow work, this is what happens. This is the difference between the actual aspects of spiritual and being stuck within fundamentals. When I'm moving in the aspects of the spiritual realm, that means I'm moving in the shadow realm. That means I'm building in the shadows. That means I'm building the governing aspects in my realm. So when I come, whenever the light is, when I come out and I'm back, I have an entire space defined to my energy to go through. I have a way to write off all of my shit. With the fundamental aspect, when motherfuckers get stuck in a fundamental or a group or whatever it is, stuck in the religious aspect, you only had half of yourself. Even in it tells you that you are half of yourself. Everything is spirit. Every doctrine based on, even in the religious doctrine, is telling you, it gives you the half of the aspect that become, it tells you about the half of the aspect that become whole. Because even in the aspects of you coming into the spiritual aspects of yourself, it's all about becoming whole. So in becoming whole, you got to address the shadow. Because the shadow got you feeling full of your shadow being untapped and ununderstood got you feeling. That's what makes the ego make you full of yourself. Because now you can sit in a space and humble yourself. Humble yourself. That's where the humility comes from. That's why this is how you become humble in yourself. Humble yourself, young nigga. Humble yourself, you humble yourself. You want to say, I'm okay. You say things to sustain the structure of your lack. So you can stay in the aspect of you lacking. Man, I'm be celibate until a real nigga come around that does this, and this. Guaranteed, half of the motherfuckers say when they stuck in celibacy on that low-level mundane shit, they're not even doing it for themselves. They haven't even learned it in themselves. Have you learned it inside of yourself? Have you learned how to navigate inside of your own realm? Have you learned how to navigate in that space inside of yourself? So how do you expect somebody to come into the space and do what you haven't done to yourself? You won't even know what it looked like. A nigga can, because a nigga or man or woman can act like that, but it goes into the same aspect of you will get everything that you want. You can get everything that you want. But when it comes to the state of what you need, until you define your need of yourself, what your inner child needs, the healing work that you need, until you define the aspects of healing the shadow, these aspects, you always going to be longing for something. You always going to be, but I just want this, or I just need that, or if I had a little bit of this, you're always going to put yourself in a state of distraction with yourself. Every single time. I know because I did the shit. I spent the better part of my career here on earth doing that shit. Walking around manipulating motherfuckers based on that shit. Never giving them the full aspect of the information, not because it would. And the truth of it is, I was not giving them the information. It wasn't based on. It was based on the surface, the sense of control, but on the deeper levels, it's because I didn't apply it to myself. I didn't have authority over it because I didn't fully understand it or embrace it. I wasn't in a whole space. So, of course, if I'm not in a whole space, I'm going to treat everybody else and keep them out of their whole space. You do it to yourself. You do it to yourself. You've done it to yourself. We've done it to ourselves. Because you scared to lose the image. Man, I don't want to look weak because that's when they're going to get us. I don't want to do this because this is when they're going to get us. Okay. I guess they need to get your ass. I guess they need to get you. I guess they need to get you. It's okay. I didn't want you. Because this is how this conduit shit, this is how the matriculation process works based on behavior. And when you understand the aspects of how it works on behavior, you understand that when you cycle back through, you come back through to learn, you come back through outside of your behaviors. The first realm of your thought process in the demiurge, that energy in that space is human thought, the human thought. After that, there is the emotion. After the emotion is the emotion is the behavior. So the things that are furthest away from you, they're going to be because I'll give you an example. When you end up not talking to somebody after a couple of times and someone bring it up, you dwindle it down to behavior. I ain't like the way they act. They acted real funny. They acted real shady. You blame it on behavior. This is after you went through your own emotional process of sifting through your emotions and the thoughts of what you thought they were going to be based on that acquirement into that. That's the same process of you reincarnating every time you come back to the space. You going through a constant cycle of reincarnation every time you don't heal yourself. That's the reincarnation process. So if you transition and you come back into the baby aspect, the lower level motherfuckers that are stuck in the mundane, that haven't learned things, that's their purpose. Their purpose is to form and their purpose is to form and create bodies. Everybody got a purpose. And until they understand their purpose, they can't go up. Everybody got an assignment. Until they understand their assignment, they can't move up. They can't move up the line. So you keep coming back. The first thing you learn as a baby is what? How to get your behavior in control. And then the next thing that you learn is how to get your emotions in control. And the next thing that you're going to go through is what? The human thought based on keeping your emotions and these behaviors in control. And then you grow up, go through this same old fucking cycle. You go through this whole damn cycle. You come all the way back up. You go all the way back up. You don't learn anything. You fall right back down. Same cycle. Sustaining the aspects of that space. Because at one point in time, when somebody said something to you, you got upset and you didn't want to do it. You were like, you didn't follow the yellow brick road all the way back to what the fuck it meant. Because if you followed that yellow brick road on that, you'd be like, man, if I do that, then they're gonna think I'm a punk, or they're gonna think I'm a weak, or they're gonna think I'm this. No. That moment that you feel that you think that somebody is going to, the moment that that trigger of vulnerability, grief, or whatever it may be is triggered, that's when you need to go back, sit with yourself, take that reflection. You sitting down with me, we getting deep into that aspect with yourself when you're doing a session with me, and you're going to go back to the first time you felt vulnerable, the first time you felt doubt, the first time you felt guilt. Go back to that first time. Because that's where your emotions are locked at. That's where your inner child is. Your inner child been back there the entire time yelling from that space. So let's think about it in a linear process of think about me in a linear process of me being 5 years old, and my mother was the first person that taught, no, not 5, me 8 years old, and me sitting in a space of distrust because my mother stole $15 from me. Think about how loud I have to yell in the current state. All these other filters and experiences that I've been through, think about how it sounds in this space. That's how you understand the course. That's the law of the correspondence, the cause and effect. Think about how it sounds in this space. It's going to sound totally different if you don't sit there with your inner child. It's going to sound totally different. You may sound like you are expressing yourself to the highest aptitude of your truth within that space, but if your throat chakra fucked up, it's going to sound broken as fuck. That's when you sound broken. This is why when you start listening to people and they start sounding a certain way or acting a certain way during certain points in time, you really got to sit there and really look at it like, is this because of me? I just got here. It can't be because of me. And then when you looking at the aspect, when you start breaking down and they looking at you like they're looking at you because they don't understand it, because they're like, is this because of me? And if you are not honest with yourself, you haven't defined yourself in that space. This is why 90% of these, that's why 90% of the arguments come up anyway. I knew that when I first studied psychology. That was before the occult shit. That was just based on basic fundamental psychology. 90% of these arguments is not going to be based on something that was done in that present tense. 90% of the arguments you have are not based on the present tense. It's a buildup. Most of the shit that you get mad at is based on buildup. But since you on the surface level of buildup, the most current situation, which would be for most motherfuckers 400 years of slavery, you stuck on that aspect, you can't get down. You stuck on that's something that they put back on top of the cake. That's the frosting they put on top of the cake. Because I put it like this. If you lived in a place where you never learned about slavery and went through what you went through, could you blame slavery? It's behaviors. It's manipulated behaviors based on keep coming back through the same. You keep coming back through the same wormhole. So you keep picking up the same aspects of the behaviors inside of that space. You keep moving it. You keep moving in that same old space, going through the same behavioral process. And then now you imitate and emulate that into new processes. So now, even if, so that's what I was talking about, that this imitation process, the thing that you didn't deal with, whoever comes into space next is going to be the refraction or the anchor or the tethering point to let you see what you need. They're going to be the mirror. They're automatically the mirror. They're going to show you where you fucked up at. They're going to show you where, like, nah, maybe you should have, nah. And a lot of us, the inner child is not used. The inner child has not been disciplined, so the child is not used to being told no. So whenever someone tells you something and you feel some type of way, like, I can't believe you just told me no. And then they can give you even in that aspect of them telling you no, if you're stuck in the emotional paralysis, it don't matter what they tell you, you're going to look at them like, you still stuck on the no part. I can't believe you told me no. I gave you the reason that I said no. I don't give a fuck. You told me no. You stuck in the developmental state that you stuck in that undeveloped stage of when you were 5 years old, 6 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old. And that's what you were experiencing in that moment. You're experiencing the same shit happen. Now it's time for you to observe it. I just want you to be the fucking best. I just want you to be the best. But yeah, that's what I was like. This is one half. To deny the other half, it puts you back at square one. To deny the other half puts you at square one. To put you back at square one. Because now, if I got one half and I ain't got the other half, I'm still not whole. I'm still not centered. I can't be in balance. Because every time that you only go into something based on the have aspect, based on the human thought or the human urge, the behavior, the emotion, or the thought, in this case, in that context, the other half has to be filled by something. What is it filled by? It's filled by the aspects of the shadow. That's what gives the ego its power. One half of you can be in that current state of the have point based on reaction, and in the other half of yourself, the shadow that has not been defined, the issues and the things that you have not defined, that becomes what the ego naturally protects. This is the protection aspect of the ego. The ego is naturally going to protect you, in that going to try to protect you based on using what's in the shadow. You remember what happened to you when you were 6. You remember what happened to you. Remember what happened with your last man. Remember what happened to your last. You remember what the last dude did to you. You remember what the last job did to you. You remember what this. This is how you defeat that. You humble yourself by humbling your ego by saying, thank you for bringing that up. I was aware of that at that point in time. I didn't know how that corresponded with this, because your ego is always going to bring you information. But in order for you to analyze and not overthink it, because the difference between analyzing and overthinking is going to keep you in thought, kept you in that cycle of thought, and you're going to try to make logic and reason of it. Analyzing allows you to create. Analyzing the situation allows you to allows you to bring in that facial recognition to recognize, and allow you to take that, allow you to use that to go forward. Activating your grace, activating your patience, activating your arousal. Now you can move through the states of arousal without sitting there looking like, oh my God, he looked so good, she looked so good. Now you can move through these states of arousal without subjecting yourself to trying to charge your energy on some low shit that you shouldn't have been fucking with. And now you're gonna move in a more clearer space because you're learning not to suppress your shit. That's the major key, is not suppressing your shit. Stop suppressing your energy. Learn it. I've been sitting here watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know why, but then it made sense when I'm watching this episode now because it got Sky on there and she's learning how to work with her powers. The longer you suppressing your shit, the more you hurting yourself. You keep suppressing that shit, keep leaving that shit locked in, the more you hurting yourself. It's going to show up in the emotional aspect. It's going to show up in your behavior. The emotional aspect, the behavior, to the thought, to the creation, what's in your space. The longer that you are not working on the internal aspects of yourself, it's going to show up in your behaviors, triggered by the emotions, and then give life based on the thought in the environment. And then you'll be sitting there like, this is why I can't never get nowhere because you don't trust yourself. It's okay. But I want you to be the best. I want you to be the fucking best. That's what I wanted to talk about, also getting into the aspects. This is the question and answer period. We're doing the question and answer period now. You have questions, drop them in the comments. Ain't got to be about a topic. You got something pressing that you've been thinking about. You've been getting triggered. You got some things going on. Drop it up in the comments. If you don't want to drop it in the comments, then you know you can hit me, gottacoalchemistllc.com. And you can schedule that consultation, schedule a consultation, schedule the reading. Hit me in the inbox of Rock Colonides at Rock Colonides on Facebook and Papa _Lucy666 on fucking Instagram. But this is the aspect of God. I was talking about it earlier. Occult Alchemist, the Occult Alchemist book club and secret society. We're going to be doing that. We're going to be getting an aspect. It's not just a book club. One half of it is a book club where we meet once to twice a month. It's a subscription. Once to twice a month, and we break down different aspects in different books. But the other half is the secret society aspect, is that this is the investing in building after. This is building after 9/11. After you reach ground zero, what do you do? What are some things that you want to do after building in ground zero that ain't going to have your ass cycling back through this shit? And that's what I was talking about when I'm telling you the ownership mentality is the LLC, that ownership, that becoming the corporation of you does not mean that you got to go quit your job and none of shit like that. You can have that 9-to-5 job, but you can still create an LLC, that mentality based on the LLC mentality of building your own code of conduct, your own trust, your code of conduct, your savings, how you invest your money. Where does your money go into? One of the easiest ways for that aspect is, okay, cool. You got your little 9-to-5 job. You got your little 9-to-5 job and you're making your money there. Cool. How are you saving? You're saving and you're investing. Okay, cool. Now you investing in some stocks, you got crypto, or so you investing in some shit and you making some money. The best way to bring that money back to yourself so it can start making money for you would be the LLC. Actually creating a physical LLC, creating that account, letting that money hit in there. Now your business account becomes an asset. Your business account is now an asset. It's your first asset. With your assets, you buy more assets. And then as you're learning this, you're breaking away from the mentality of I got to do this, this, and this in order for me to get this. Now you're still going to carry these lessons. You'll still carry these lessons, but guess how you're going to start using them? Everything becomes a write-off because now you'll sit there in that thought process. Yo, I'm about to go cop this car. All right, cool. How much does your car weigh? Your car weighs 6,000 pounds. There's a 6,000 pound. There's 3 different aspects, and this type of shit we gonna be talking about in the secret society. There's 3 different aspects. You can grab your car, and every single month that you pay your car payment in that space, car insurance, maintenance on the car, all of that shit becomes a write-off because it's through your LLC. It's a company car. Yo, I'm writing this off because I got to take my car to go travel, whether I'm going to go pick up some supplies, even if you're picking up groceries for the house, wherever it may be. These are aspects in you building your own space. And then we go deeper into building and understand how that's synonymous with your aspects of being in the spiritual aspects of yourself. Going through understanding that in spirituality, it's about your experience and observing the learning and applying through your experiences. Your experience and seeing how you're looking at others' experiences and others' observations in order to learn the better aptitudes of yourself. Not looking at like, oh, we all sitting here like, ooh. It's not sitting there, because I don't want nobody sitting here and you started watching me when you was like 31, and then you like 45, 46, and then you still coming and you that's not my goal. I don't desire anybody to be sitting there looking at me. I don't desire anybody looking at me like after. I want you to advance because I'm advancing. I want you to advance. I want you to evolve. I want you to become the best. I want you to step into the highest aspects of yourself. And the only way to step into the highest aspects of yourself is through that aspects of that shadow work. Really getting to know your shadow. Really sitting there with yourself. The thing that I said earlier on, one of the things I said earlier on, if you wrote a letter to your old self disclosing all the dirty aspects of yourself, and then someone came in front of you with a TV camera, and that shit was live, and you knew family, friends, everybody of your life at that point in time was sitting there looking at the TV screen while you sitting there saying that live, how much of that letter could you say in full truth out loud to the damn camera? That's the equivalent to how honest you're going to be with yourself. This is how serious you got to be with your shadow self. Because until you do that, ooh, I'm telling you, it's different. If you have, think about it like this. If you have never seen Vampire in Brooklyn with Eddie Murphy, go watch Vampire in Brooklyn. When he got that one scene with Angela Bassett and he says, I gave you the gift of eternal life. That is a shadow work quote. You can't give yourself eternal life. You can't embrace eternal life or you being this great aspect of what you want to be until you embrace the dark. Your darkness. Not nobody else's darkness. Because this is another thing that we do a lot of times. We sit there and embrace other people's darkness as a counterpart of trying to help them get through their darkness. So at the end of a relationship, at the end of a friendship, at the end of that cycle, you sitting there looking like, I spent so much time on you, and now I'm weak, and I feel like I'm worthless. I feel like I wasted all my time with your bum ass, bitch. And you try to sleep with my man, and you sitting there crying over and over and over again over shit, repeating your damn cycle. And then you're going to go all the way back to that. Now that's the thought. This is the thought. Now you're going to go to the emotional aspect, be emotional. Then you'll go back to the behavior. This is why I do this, this, and this. This is why I've accepted. This is reality, honest with yourself. I've accepted this definition of myself, this personality of what they see me as, and I'm stuck in this. You're not stubborn. You emotionally paralyzed. That's all it is. I know, because I used to be emotionally paralyzed a lot. You couldn't get me to say certain shit for nothing. Look at you like, nah. Nah. What you gotta know that part for? Because you have suspicion and paranoia in your mind. That's the key. The first step is saying Yo, it's time. It's time for my. It's time for me. It's time for me to get to work. It's time for me. It's time for me. It's time for me to put in my work. It's time for me to be like, you know what? It's time for me to sit down with myself and really get into the work. Because I'm gonna give you some examples. I'm gonna give you examples inside of the space of where you at right now with certain things that you're gonna be listening to and what you're gonna be chiming into over these next couple of months. Guaranteed, because I'm feeling the energy inside of the space. In the next couple of months, you're gonna watch something else that's gonna hurt your feelings because you're gonna be like, I never thought they would say that. You're going to be looking at somebody they're going to hit you with, I never thought they would say that to me. Or you're going to hear some shit. This is how you know you're going into your process. You're going to hear some shit and you're going to be like, I've heard this before. Why? How many times have you really said this? And why did I never listen in the first place? That's how you know you shifted. That's how you know. This is when you're shifting from experience mode. You stuck in the firsthand experience. They've been through some things, and you become the observer of what they've been through. That's the key when you go into your shadow work. You're shifting from stuck in your experience to observing others' experience to see the equivalent ley lines. Talked about it in the podcast. The equivalent ley lines to what that statue they created. Because I talked about it before, talking about these different statues, like in your life, based on the trauma and the events after the trauma, the emotional downtrodden, that's the ley line. That's the coordinates to the ley line of the trauma. On top of this ley line, you made a statue, a stature of limitations, all business. You made a stature of limitations to why you are the way you are. And that pulls your energy in. So you made a statue of what your mother was. You made a statue of what your mother was and what she represented. And that's what you pull from. That statue's on the ley line connected to your power. So until you're able, this is when you go into the aspect of forgiveness and apology. So until you're able to forgive, until you're able to acknowledge, accept, and apologize and forgive, to start the heal, to go into, to get deep into your healing process, you always going to go to that statue of limitations to why you can't be the best woman or the best man you can be. You created a statue of your father, the stature of limitations, and bounded yourself to the laws of your statue of limitations to why you can't be the best father or best lover you can be based on how your father was. You created the statue. You made the deity. You created because what you thought was above in your mind in the memory, the blind eye, this the blind eye. When they were talking about your daughter, bro, the nigga blind, the nigga ain't got no third eye. And you created what you thought that you saw from what was above you. What was above you? The heartache, the pain, all this stuff. So you created an entire world below you to sustain that. So you can keep acting the way that you acting. You think that shit ain't, I realized that shit wasn't cute for myself for a long period of time. Because every time that I got stuck in it, nigga, I was like, nigga, I looked old as hell. Everybody, I don't know if everybody's seen the picture on my Instagram and my Facebook when I made the post. But like, I looked old as fuck. I don't even recognize that nigga no more. Just in facial structure, in the physical aspect, I don't even recognize this person anymore. I found an old picture of myself from like 2002 when I had no facial hair. I think I was like 17. And I had on a fucking iced out gear cross and a white t-shirt and a trucker hat. And I was a mess. And this is another key aspect, and you looking at pictures of yourself. Like, go look at old pictures of yourself. What were you feeling? What were you thinking? Where were you at in your life? How did you feel? Really look at the picture. And I guarantee the picture will start changing. All my old pictures, I looked old as hell up until 2013. No, 2015, 16. That's when the youth started. That's when my soul started. My soul started integrating. So I started getting younger in the face. I was like, nigga, I look younger. I look lighter. That's that soul integration. But yeah. Any questions? Drop them in the comments. If you're interested in services, shadow work consultation, reading, setting up shadow work therapy, getting yourself into that space, because all I want you to do is be the fucking best. I swear all I want you to do is be the best. Because that's all I want for myself. And stay tuned for more information on the Secret Society, the Occult Alchemist Secret Society and Book Club. Stay tuned for more information on that. I'll be putting out the feelers on the subscription for that. It's a subscription service. The book club solely by itself is like $20 a month. You get 2 books out the month. We do meet twice a month via Zoom. Twice a month via Zoom. Go through a book, break down some books in the synopsis of that aspect. If you need that aspect, if you feel like you just need that aspect. The Secret Society aspect is investing in applying in the information. And that's going to be everything. That I want to say I'm doing that at like $60 a month. But it's like that includes everything from not just me giving you information. It just won't be me delivering book information. Because I already got a list of people that have their book, that wrote books, got books, understand shit, and we're going to be doing that. And on the other aspect in the Secret Society, that's where we really going, that's going to be the deeper build based on financial literacy, establishing yourself, bringing yourself into them deeper spaces, because it's based on the reciprocity of what you're willing to invest into yourself. I was about to say something. But yeah, your keys. But the keys to your success, it's deeper within you than you know. Everything that you want, I'll give you an example. I'm gonna give you another. We'll end this off with another example. When you feel afraid to challenge yourself, I'm gonna do it. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, we are gonna do some readings. I'm gonna do a reading. I'm gonna do a collective reading. If you want a more in-depth reading for yourself, the Cash App link is in the I'm gonna do it again because I be forgetting sometimes. God damn, y'all niggas was in here. There we go. I'm gonna repeat it again. Oh shit! Don't do that. Okay, go here. We're gonna go here with this. That's that right there. Hit that button right there. I'm gonna do a collective reading. Read the energy in the space. I'm gonna do a collective reading. If you want a more personal reading, only in this space is where whatever you can donate, whatever the spirit leads you to donate, you can donate for a reading for yourself. I was going to do a Facebook group later on, but since we all in here right now, we all having fun. I'm going to use this. Let's pull out the white cards. We will be meeting in the parlor for the white cake. If you put 50 cents in there, I'm going to rip a card up and put it. Let's not do that. If you feel 50 cents is worth your reading, then you will get a 50 cent worth of a reading. Yes. You put 50 cents in there, you will get 50 cents worth of a reading. I don't even know how to do 50 cents worth of a reading. All right, let's get these. We're going to use the beautiful Hermetica deck that I love using. Y'all got my third eye jumping and shit. First card that I'm pulling is the Five of Pentacles. The Five of Pentacles, as you see in the Five of Pentacles, got that big horn energy in it. This is the aspect of representing the Taurus and the Aries. So the energy reading in the room is the conflict of moving forward. When in the traditional aspects of the Five of Pentacles card, it shows a man. It shows two people working in front of a church in a white rider deck. So it's two people walking in front of the church, and they scrounging for change. But they don't see the light behind them. So when I'm looking at this card, reading that energy, you see yourself in the space where it's time for you to actually start growing and start embracing the change, going through the aspects of really tapping into your work. But it's time for you to actually push through it. So when the energy I'm reading, it's time for you to actually start pushing through that shit. You're in the space now. You're in the space now where it's time for you to do it. You're starting to start seeing, a lot of you are starting to see cycles repeating. You're starting to see cycles repeating in your life. Like you're starting to see shit repeating. Matter of fact, let's change the music up while we got it. Let's go to something. I don't want to see no baby. That's good. But yeah. So when you looking at your space right now, you in the space right now where it's time for you really to start. It's really time to start investing into yourself. It's really time for you to start investing in yourself, investing in your process. Stop looking at it from this space. A lot of us come stuck in that space with ourselves where it's like, but if I put it into myself, and then what about the other people? They naturally going to disappear. That's the reality of it. As you start working on yourself, matter of fact, let me see something. I want to see something real quick. Nah, we ain't gonna do that. We ain't gonna do that. As you start investing into yourself, you're going to start seeing other individuals, the clones, the handlers. You're going to start seeing them lose their ability to tap into your energy. That's the whole key. You want people, if they tap into your energy, it comes at a price. There's nothing wrong with you feeling like, there's nothing wrong with you being in the space of saying, yo, my energy, my emotions, my insight, my thoughts, my opinions, I come at a price. I've defined this price inside myself. You okay? It's okay. You came in right into time. I'm doing donation-based readings. If you want a reading, I'm doing a collective reading right now, but if you want a reading, you want to get a reading of your own, donation-based readings, and we just doing through there. But right now we're going through that Five of Pentacles aspect. You in a space right now with yourself where you looking at things, and now it's time for you to actually start going in. It's time for you to put that shit going inward. Stop being hard-headed. Stop waiting for people to necessarily, I'm waiting for this person. I'm waiting for them to shape up. They're not going to shape up. I'm waiting for them to get their life together. They're not going to get their life together. I'm waiting for my mother to admit some things. They're not going to admit things. Here becomes the truth. The only reason that they're in that, because the reason that they're in that space, as pulled out by that aspect of the Three of Wands, the only reason that they're inside of that space, based on that Three of Wands energy that you in, that Three of Wands represents the aspects of that conflict. This is that when you're looking at the decision of which way you're going to go. On one side, the Three of Wands gives you that energy to that space of, there's the aspects of your shadow and the aspects of your ego. The aspects of your shadow and the aspects of your inner child. You are stuck in between trying to figure out which one you're going to listen to. Am I going to keep listening to my ego that's trying to tell me that I should wait a little bit longer, wait for them to get their life together in that space? Or should I listen to my inner child? And what does my inner child really want? This gives you the aspect. It's time to really start listening to your inner child. I'm sensing a lot of hurt in a lot of people because you haven't let go of a lot of things. It's okay. That leads into the aspects of the Empress. The Empress is the mother aspect, the mother nurturing aspect. What leads you into the aspect of it's really time to stop. It's really that reinforces it's time for you to really listen to your inner child. What does your inner child want? What does your inner child require in the healing process? It's time for you to initiate this healing process in your life, because without the healing process, you really ain't going anywhere. Nothing's going to happen. You're going to keep repeating them same old cycles we've been talking about all night. You're going to keep repeating the same cycle. You're going to keep going. And then when I'm talking about when we talk about cycles in this space, we're not talking about based on the person. We're talking based on the conduit or the behaviors, the thoughts, and the emotions that channel that energy into your space. Because you can go from having a boyfriend or a girlfriend that ain't shit, and as soon as they leave, that friend that isn't shit or that family member that ain't living up the par, they come back into the picture. It's always been in your space. This is when we start talking about that talk. When we think about, I was in a toxic relationship, he didn't do this and she didn't do that. Were they toxic or were you toxic? Who? Were you toxic or were they toxic? Was your life toxic? Or you got to be honest with yourself. Sometimes you are the toxicity. Was your life toxic and you got into the space with them and then they made you feel good for a little bit of time based on the wants? But when it came time to give you what you need, you didn't define that inside of yourself? Heard. Think that, love is a... All right, cool. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna finish the general reading. We're gonna get to Aaliyah's reading. Putting yourself inside of that space with yourself. Now it's time to start really nurturing and looking at yourself. It's time to really start looking into yourself. The Empress card gives you the aspects of embracing those changes and looking into yourself. What do you need to nurture? Why do you keep going through these cycles? I'm gonna pull 2 more cards. This leads to the aspects of that. This leads to the aspects of the Queen of Cups. So it's about a lot of nurturing going on right now. A lot of people going through it's a nurturing process. The Queen of Cups is the aspects. When I look at the cups, I think about the aspects of looking at that old cup and how you were filling your cup, how you were filling your cup up, how you was drinking and what you was sipping on. You were sipping on the antidote and the poison. In your life, you sip on the antidote and the poison. The antidote and the poison are the same fucking shit. The way you're going to get out is the way that you got in there. You got to reverse engineer to understand, go back to the source. And then the last card on this collective card is that 7 of Swords. 7 of Swords represents piercing that veil. Until you understand what you fill in your cup, but you can't pierce the veil to go through the healing process. Until you pierce the veil, you cannot go through the aspects of the healing process. 1 second, I'm going to go pee. All right, we back. All right, cool. Let's do Aaliyah's 1 in a million reading. But yeah, like as you in this space right now, you going through these cycles. It's really time for you to start. This is the time because the shadows are gonna seem more dense. Shit only gonna keep getting heavier. Shit only gonna keep getting heavier. If you ain't working on yourself, you ain't tapping into yourself. Shit only gonna keep getting heavier. You only gonna keep going through the same processes of thought and all these ideas in yourself. You gonna keep going through the same shit over and over and over again. It's gonna hurt. The process is gonna hurt. The result is always gonna hurt because you keep skipping through processes, basically. That's what that energy in that reading was on. But now let's get this next reading in. If anybody else is interested in a reading, I think I'll do we'll do a couple more. All right, cool. Ooh, Hermetica, wherefore art thou? What is it? La 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 la. Heard. All right, cool. After we do this reading right here. We got one person that came in for their reading. I don't want to mess nobody's name up. So I'm going to say Allen, last name Allen. All right, cool. First card that we pull is the Hierophant. The Hierophant is the majesty of the eternal gods. So when we look at the aspects of the energy within this card, the Hierophant represents the aspect. The Hierophant represents the aspects of the spiritual encompassing, the lessons within the spirit, spiritual encompassing. So there's a lesson to be learned. There's a lesson to be learned and embraced in this moment in time for you. There's a lesson to be learned and embraced in this moment in time for you. That lesson that is to be learned is picked up in the Two of Cups. The Two of Cups represents the aspects of that. The Two of Cups represents the aspects of harmony. So the lesson that you're going to be coming into is understanding the balance and harmony. Something in your life right now, something for you right now is in a sense that you ain't feeling real. You ain't really feeling harmonious. The way that you're filling out the way that you're filling out. The lesson that you need to learn is going to help you be able to prioritize and fill out that space. Not having yourself in this space with yourself of you're trying to fill one cup and the other cup ain't getting full, or you sitting in that space like, I feel like I'm doing everything that I need to do. But it's not giving me what I needed to do. I keep ending up being back the same space. So that goes into that lesson. That lesson of filling that cup goes into the Five of Cups. So you got a lot of addressing to the aspects of how your flow, how you're coming into your flow and what you're feeding. As we look into the Five of Cups, the energy is the aspect of you're looking at, am I filling up these cups? Am I simply feeding up weeds? Am I feeding the weeds? Or am I feeding things? And pouring into myself things that are actually going to help me expand and grow? It's like, it can be everything from work. It can be everything from home, like that personal aspect. What authority are you doing in the aspect of how you're feeling yourself? How you're bringing yourself into your balance? What works are you doing? That is the works that you're doing right now, the lessons that you are learning. How are you moving forward to apply them in that space? How are you applying those lessons? How are these lessons bringing you into that sense of that mastery with yourself? This leads into the aspects of that Four of Wands. In order to get that lesson, in order to take that lesson, bringing yourself into that harmony, that harmony of that flow, and stop looking at it based on pleasure. This is also going to the aspects of, instead of meditating on what's bringing you the external pleasure, it's time to look at what's bringing you the internal pleasure. This is what the Four of Wands represents. And how are you turning? It's time to sit with yourself. I suggest you sitting with yourself and really turning that external pleasure inwards. The things that have been giving you external pleasure are now you're not being pleased in the external sense anymore. The way that you used to be pleased, the life that you used to be pleased with is no longer something that's pleasing you. It's not giving you the same oomph. It's not giving you that same, it ain't giving you that same thrill. It's time to turn that energy inwards and really sit there with yourself. Take some moment of self-reflection. Take that moment of self-reflection and be like, you know what? Maybe I do need to, maybe I have been thinking about this. Listen. Because what most people think about when they think about meditation is, I have to clear my mind. The key of you meditating and sitting with your thoughts is being able to become aware and look at those thoughts in your life and like see who's saying what. Is it your inner child speaking to you? Is it your shadow speaking to you? Is it whose voice is leading you? What voice are you listening to? Because I say it all the time. The key for it is every time that you think that you're thinking, you're listening. So what are you listening to? Because what you're listening to is driving your intuition or the insecurity. I call it, it's the aspect of the insecurity, because your ego is going to drive insecurity, overthinking, and your inner child learning, healing aspect, the healed aspect, your soul is going to lead you to your intuition or to interfacing in order to expand. One's going to make you constrict, the other one's going to make you expand. So that goes further into the aspect of it's not working no more. That old thing ain't working no more. This goes into the Two of Wands. As you come into the state of meditation and you're sitting there with yourself and you're reflecting with yourself, you're going to be sitting there. The Two of Wands represents the two paths that you can take with your energy. You can either go and repeat the cycle, or you can step away from the cycle. If you're in a cycle where it's a lot of higher, the only way to understand the cycle on both ends is stepping away. You can stay in the cycle, but it's only going to revert back to the lesson that you haven't learned. It's going to revert back to more disharmony. It's going to lead to you even being less pleased with your decision. It's going to lead to you. It's all based into the aspects of what you prefer, and it's going to lead you right back to that same space. So it's like, this is the decision that you're going to be making in your life right now. It's like, do I want to continue keep going down this road, down this? It's not doing what I needed to do. The relationship ain't working. I'm being distracted more. What used to give me this, what used to make me, what gave me a purpose is now a distraction, basically. What gave you a purpose is now becoming a distraction. So now you're sitting there in that space like, what am I going to do with myself? I used to do it for so long, but why? What changed? What happened? What's different? The thing is that you're different. And now that you are different, now it's time for you to invest in the changes of why you're different. But yeah, that's all into that aspect. The lesson is showing you where you're not having harmony. The thing that used to please you is no longer giving you that same pleasure. You haven't been feeling it for a while by looking at the aspects of that Lord of Love and that lesson energy with the Hierophant coming out first. Because if I pulled the Hermit card first, it would have been a totally different aspect. But then you go into the aspects, it's time for you really to sit there with yourself, get into that space with yourself, really get into that space with yourself, really be honest with yourself, especially with the new moon and Aquarius and the 7 other planets. It's going to be a very rude awakening for a lot of us. For a lot of y'all, it's going to be a very rude awakening, because it's going to be showing you everything that you needed to see for the last little bit of time that you haven't been paying attention to. Remember, this year is the year of shadows. This is the year of shadows. The year of the year of this is the age of Aquarius, the golden age, the age of knowing. So the light is now projected straight on your shadows. But yeah, that conflict of how you gonna move forward is only gonna be found in you learning is really embracing and sitting there with what lesson did you learn? What lesson did you learn? That's always the key. What lesson did you learn? May that reading be ever in your favor and gave you exactly what you needed. Appreciate the aspect of the true story. And now we're about to get into the next reading. The next reading right quick. Get the card shuffle up one more time. Yeah. What we notice with the questions that we have with everything in our lives is all the one question. This is the simple. One question that you can have fits every synonymous aspect of your life. The answer is not going to be in one simple part of your life. It's in everything in that space. That's the lesson. And embracing that lesson is going to be that key. All right, let's get these cards shuffled. Ooh, child. Pull it out. Pull it out. Ooh. All right. First card off the first top. The Hierophant in reverse. Ooh, the Hierophant in reverse. That means somebody you're not learning. You're not embracing. You're not learning the lesson you need to learn. The next card is the Two of Swords. So we got the Hierophant in reverse. That's the aspect of, as we look at the top of this card and the energy reads and it's illustrating those horns at the top right there. The horns are at the top, not at the bottom. Because if it was up this way, I told you it's a lesson that you're coming into. There's a lesson that you are in. There's a lesson that's in your. There's a lesson for you right now that you have not yet embraced. There is a lesson that has been cycling over and over and over again that you have not yet learned. This is being shown in the Ten of Swords that the cycle has ended for that first round. That this cycle is ending for you not to be able to see the lesson. That means in the way that when you look at that aspect of that reading is now there is nothing stopping you from learning the lesson. It's only going to repeat itself. That leads into the aspects of the Nine of Swords, which represents the end of a cycle. Coming into the end of that cycle, the Ten of Swords represents the end. The Ten of Swords represents the end or the removing of that veil. The Ten of Swords represents the end or the removing of that veil. That means it's not there. The veil that will stop you from learning the lesson is not there. The veil has been being cut away so you can see the lesson full and up front. And that's given into the illustration by the Nine of Swords. The Nine of Swords represents that end of that cycle, or now you really have to look at it for as heart-wrenching as it is. It's going to be, it's something that you have not dealt with. It's something that you not wanted to deal with. You've known that you needed to deal with it for a while. And now you come into the space where it's like, you got no choice. You always have a choice. You either can move forward and let me sit here with this. Let me learn this shit now, because all I'm doing is getting cut up and hurting myself. I'm hurting everybody around me by my behavior, by my actions in that space. That leads into that right there of the Two of Cups. You have one or two choices. The longer that you sit there in that space, and not learn, not step forward, that Two of Cups represents the aspect of you going to be that's disharmony. You're going to remain in that state of disharmony that you're in. Right now, you're in a state of disharmony because the lesson has not been embraced. You have not taken yourself to actually sit there with that lesson. And that last card is that Five of Cups in reverse. That's crazy. I'm sorry. That Five of Cups in reverse represents the aspect of being in this conflict is draining you. The longer that you stay in disharmony, the longer it's going to drain you. On both ends of the spectrum, when you're in disharmony with your balance of the love with yourself, that love, that tapping into that love into yourself, when you're in that disharmony, that energy is going to be draining you in that space. You're going to start getting drained. You're going to have moments of time, when you oversleep, when you feel like you're sleeping too much, and now you're sleeping too little. And then you're going to go through that cycle of sleeping too much and then sleeping too little. Whether you sleeping too much or you sleeping too little, you never going to have the energy that you need. If you sleeping too much, remember, because if you oversleep, you ain't going to have the energy to move forward. If you undersleep, you ain't going to have the energy to move forward. So it's time for you to put yourself in this, and now it's time for you. This is your resting state. This is the moment in time where it's time for you to really sit there with yourself and recognize within yourself those aspects within you that allow you to keep going through that cycle, that allow you to keep being inside of that space. What keeps drawing you to that space? Because remember, as I've said, what we said earlier, you only can be corrupted. Only can be corrupted. Only way you can be corrupted is that there's disorder within. So the disorder that's within you is reflecting in your space. The disharmony that's in you is reflecting inside of your space. That's what's leaving you cut up. That's what's leaving you feeling cut down. That's what's leaving you in unrest. That's what's leaving you. That's what's leaving. It's all going to the basis of, since all of these aspects, since these external things are in distraction, you're in this distracted space, you can't embrace the lesson that you need to learn. You can't move forward because you're not learning from the lesson. You sitting there like, man, but I was thinking that maybe at one point, it ain't gonna happen. It's not going to, what you want to play out is not going to play out. It's not going to play out it's not going to play out how you wanted to play out. It's going to play out how you needed to play out. And how it's playing out is playing out how it needs to play out. So you can sit there and really be like, okay, my world's calling for people out. You're going to come to a space where you're going to think everything's falling apart. But in reality, when things fall apart, everything is actually falling together. When everything is falling apart, it's allowing you to see the emotional channel. It's time for you to look and see the emotional channel. Yeah. It's time for you to look and really be like, you know what? This ain't good for me. This ain't good for nobody. Because ultimately, if you're not good for yourself, you can't be good for anything else. If you ain't good for yourself, you can't be good for the kids. You can't be good for the job. You can't be good for anybody. So it's really time for you to really sit here in that space with yourself. I'm gonna pull one more card. As a Rehnquist. We pulled the Four of Wands again. The Four of Wands goes in the aspects of the reflecting. The same thing we did. The same thing in that same aspect of telling Aaliyah that same message. That same aspect with that Four of Wands. It's really time for you to really sit there with yourself and really. It's time for you to evaluate. It's time for you to really take a moment of reevaluation. Where you at right now, it's time for you to really sit there in that state of evaluation with yourself. Ooh, child. Things are going to get easier. And chicken wings. And one more card on that with that meditation, in that aspect of meditation, the Emperor represents, you've been known, and that's how you're going to find that lesson. You know exactly what it is. You know exactly what move you need to make. And it's time to invest in that move. It's time to invest in moving forward. But yes. No problem. Oh, yeah. What's the lesson? Let's get into that part. That's what I wanted to say. When I do lessons, I just saw Aaliyah's joint. And she said, what's the lesson? They have a question mark. So I was like, When I do what's the lesson, I'm going to pull an oracle card for that lesson. La 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 la. All right, cool. Boom. The lesson for you, the lesson is center. The lesson for you is centering. The lesson for you in this moment in time that you are going to have to learn is centering. You are the center of focus in your life. A lot of times we come into our space with ourselves where we forget that we are the center of, and we forget our center. We forget our we forget that our balance, Our balance subsedes all other things that come into balance. Our balance subsedes bringing ourselves without you being in balance and in harmony, and in that's how the disharmony works. You'll stay in disharmony. You'll be there. You'll sit there. You're gonna keep going. You're gonna keep trying to fill that space because it's not centered. Whether you go to the left, that one half, you're not centered, so you're gonna be trying to fill it with something else. Whether you go to this other half of the polarity, you're gonna be trying to fill it with something else. Your lesson for you is going to be coming into that center point with yourself, finding that center into your life. I just feel like you haven't been centered, and you haven't been centered for a while. You've been fighting back and forth with becoming centered with yourself and finding yourself and bringing yourself in that space. This is going to be that main point in time for you to find that center. Same thing with that knowledge of you going forward. It's all about going into that space of you sitting there with yourself. I appreciate everybody for coming through. If there's no more questions, no more readings. If you want more in-depth readings, you want that more in-depth one-on-one, hit me up, gottacoalchemistllc.com. Go ahead, hit that. If you ready for your shadow work, hit me up with the consultation. Hit me up for the consultation. We'll build that up. No problem. I'll share. Build that up with your space into that. Get you set up with that, with the therapy. Everything is confidential. It's a safe space. We do it via Zoom. I do most of the meetings if you're not local, and we find that out wherever you at. I am willing to travel and all that good stuff. But we do it via Zoom, safe space, so you can actually start letting that shit come out so we can reorganize you and get you into that good space. Appreciate everybody coming through. Share, subscribe. Let the knowledge do what it's supposed to do. I will see y'all next Friday, if not throughout the week. If you do that, if you hit me up for it, if you hit that appointment for a service, whether it's an appointment for a service, you hit me up on the podcast, you listen to the podcast, watch a live, see me on IG on a live, wherever it is. Allow the knowledge to resonate. Allow it to make you great. The only thing that is left, the only thing that's going to lead you to everything, that relationship that you're trying to get into, that relationship of your dreams that's going to bring you into that wholeness, shadow work. That job, that abundance that you're trying to tap into, shadow work. That drive, that vehicle that's going to drive you into that home, to that space that's going to be full of your abundance and your prosperity and your wealth and everything in that space is going to be the shadow work. Without the shadow work, nothing else really matters. I love you. We love us. Ashe.